Don't stop, turn off the lights. Nauseous when I wake up. Don't quit, I fell for you. Don't break it in two. Long time before I knew us two would follow through. Hold out, don't give it up. Good things can come to those who wait. 'Cause you make me feel like this is for real. And I want you till trees grow on the moon. If you're a falling star, I wanna follow you. I want you till it falls out the sun. It's standing up for you. It's standing up for you. Ooh. Standing up. Standing up for you. Ooh. Standing up. Standing up for you. Break down when we're apart. Too far, I'm in the dark. Now don't fold my foolish heart. And don't wait for magic sparks. Make it work, although we get stuck on the low. Breathe out, we can't forget. Hurts like a bayonet. Could you make me feel we're in this for real? And I want you till trees grow on the moon. If you're a falling star, I wanna follow you. I want you till it falls out the sun. It's standing up for you. It's standing up for you. Ooh. Standing up. Standing up for you. Ooh. Standing up. Standing up for you. And all I need is reassurance. All for you. Long time. All for you. I want you till trees grow on the moon. You're a falling star. I wanna follow you. I want you till it falls out the sun. Standing up for you. Standing up for you. Standing up. Standing up. Standing up for you. Standing up. Standing up for you.
But do you really know about trust? It could hurt my love, y'all, but you really got the choice, but have some. We all fall down, never getting used to feel numb. It's getting hard to overcome some. Knowledge to be free from this gun. One shot, and I'm down. Oh, I know that all is my fault. Never learn from it all, like a fastball in motion. I'm hoping. I thought that we had it all. Now I'm broken and scarred, and I'm scared of it all. No joking. Oh, no joking. Oh, I thought that we had it all. Now I'm broken and scarred, and I'm scared of it all. Oh, no joking. What do you really know about love? It's doing more discovering nerd us. Don't really have a choice but try on. We all fall down, never getting used to spider. All the times I have lost love, getting out to overcome someone wrong, and I'm down. Oh, I know that all is my fault. Never learn from it all, like a fastball in motion. I'm hoping. I thought that we had it all. Now I'm broken and scarred, and I'm scared of it all. No joking. Oh, no joking. Oh.
Welcome to the SMITE Minor League. Finch here, joined by Ryan Agro Bailey, and today we're taking a look at Europe, and we've got a stacked day really full of European SML action. I've been kind of, going through. We've got some really good sets that I'm excited to take a look at.
We really do. We're all looking at Optimus Gang and seeing if they can continue to be the top card right now in European SML, but I think also looking at Signum, they've got to try and catch up at this point, and it really feels like a two-team race for the most part, but you never really know. These minor league teams can be pretty volatile. They can improve very quickly or kind of regress very quickly. So I'm excited to see what we have today.
And there's been some shakeups throughout it as well, right? The Victoria's Secret, now Milky Way roster, they kind of got a bit blown up. Mr. Stefan and Streak up moving as well. They joined the Exordium roster, I believe, or not Exordium rather, but the Sacred Speed Buff roster and swapped from there. There have been some change-ups, just like you said, right? It can be volatile between where everyone's going. So we'll try to make sure we get everything in order for you in front of these matchups. But one more thing you can get in order are your tickets to HRX. Go ahead and grab those right here, right now. HighResExpo.com. See the Console World Championships, PC World Championships. Paladins will be there as well. Just a huge event you're not going to want to miss.
These minor league teams trying to get to that DreamHack Atlanta. Certainly possible for them, but it will be a difficult role.
It absolutely will not be easy, but that's why you got to make sure that you're showing up every week and putting in that practice so you can be as prepared as possible. And you want to be prepared for this too, the after party, where everyone's going to be maybe a little bit more relaxed than normally you end up seeing them. Everybody's hanging out, having a good time, kind of when we can all just sort of, just sort of talk and chill.
HRXafterparty.eventbrite.com, the place to go for those tickets. Trust me, you will regret not going to the after party. If you are coming to DreamHack, you need to be coming to that after party as well.
So check one, make sure you go to DreamHack, and then if you're at DreamHack, there is no reason why you should not go to this. You should go. Yeah, that's all there is to it.
It's an if-and statement.
Right.
If you are at DreamHack and go to the after party.
Right.
That didn't make a lot of sense, but you got the point. Buy your tickets.
I'm right there with you. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at exactly what matchups we can expect throughout the day. We do have the Milky Way Sacred Speed Buff match when that happened offset, and this is an important one for Milky Way. It looks like they were able to grab that win there, and I kind of do want to talk a little bit about them too, because they're going to be the third set we go into. They've been struggling, but I think the reason they struggle is because they've gone up against Optimus Gang and Insignum with their first two games. I think they might not be as bad as that 0-3 record indicates. Now, obviously, 1-3 if they were able to find that win. That's big for them.
No, I mean, that's a tough schedule for sure, but if you want to get to the top of the European minor league, eventually you do have to beat those teams.
You're exactly right.
Everyone's looking to be top three. The top half basically of the league goes into that round robin play to determine the top end cards. And those are best of threes, I believe. So you really just need to get to that top three if you want to make it to that point, and then anything can happen. It's basically like the playoffs.
That's right. You get a chance to go in and really show exactly what you've been able to learn here throughout that online phase. So we take a look at the standings. Optimus Gang kind of unchecked up there near the top. They got that win up against Insignum. I believe that was our opener, or way back in week 1. They got that win there. So we'll see if they can keep that up. Over in North America, very nice to me. Looking just as strong, even though they've had a bunch of roster swaps there in North America. We'll take a look at them tomorrow. But to talk a little bit more about what we're going to be seeing today, we can start with sort of, I guess, the last set of the day and work our way back up. It's Poppies going up against Exordium there in that set. That's one where it's very clumped down there at the bottom, right? They're almost all like 1 and 2. Even now we saw that win coming in from Milky Way as well, so they're right up there with them. This is where you can start sort of separating yourself a bit from the pack at this sort of midway point in the split.
Exactly. Like you said, Milky Way had a tough first 2 games, against Optimus Gang and Insignum. You kind of expect them to drop those just because OG and Insignum are so far ahead of everyone else right now. This is where you make your hay. This is where if you want to finish that third spot, because the top 2 feel pretty, just based on what we've seen from these two teams throughout the entirety of Season 5, those top 2 likely to be Insignum and Optimus Gang in any particular order. So the third spot, you need to be beating the other middle of the road teams. This is where I think that one team will start to solidify themselves as that other top-end contender.
That'll be right up there with them. And it could very well be Exordium. So far, they've looked well. They've had some great performances. I liked what we saw from Cosmix. I feel like Angry Day can certainly step up and be that 1-2 punch right there with him, so I'm expecting a lot from them. But up against Poppies, I don't know that it's going to be easy. They maybe have struggled a little bit, but I mean, that's a roster full of names we all know, right?
Exactly. And the Poppies have been around for so long.
Yes.
Eventually, you expect that they'll be able to put it together. Warchi, his transition towards the mid lane has been okay at times, has struggled at other times. That's usually the story of roster swaps like that, and in role changes in particular, where you'll be a little bit inconsistent but show flashes of being able to do it, or else you probably wouldn't have seen the role swap in the first place. I think that mid lane is really where you should be looking out for in this game. How well can Warchi do in that mid lane?
Yeah, and it's going to be a big matchup for them, so we'll see how that works. Exordium actually going to be playing twice today. Right before that set with the Poppies are going to be playing Milky Way. We talked a little bit about them already, right?
Yep.
Where they've had a bit of a rough early start here to the split, And so maybe this is their chance to sort of show, okay, we know we've been at the bottom earlier, but everyone else might end up taking those same lumps that we took, right? And so we're really not as far back as it just ends up looking scheduling-wise. Maybe even up near that top. But like you said, this is where you sort of create that space. It's been tough for this roster. They're one of the ones that relegated in, so we'll see if they can make it work.
I mean, you're right. With Milky Way beating Sacred Speed Buff in the offline game, that puts them at 1-3.
Yeah,
if they're
right
able
there
to
with
take this
everyone
one. 2-3 is a totally fine spot to be in. Now, 1-4, you're looking up at the top already because the middle of the pack right now is sitting at 1-2. You expect the Poppies to be able to get at least one win today, though they do have to go up against Optimus Gang. So that's tough for them to really match up with. Poppies should probably be really focusing on their matchup against Exordium like we just talked about.
Right, because like you said, they're playing Optimus Gang as sort of that second match of the day. That's a tough one. Everyone has lost to this Optimus Gang roster, so I mean, I'm not saying Poppies can't win, but certainly Optimus Gang are going to be the favorites going into this one. I mean, Johnny's been an absolute nutcase up to this point in the jungle for Optimus Gang. Sibi as well has been really strong for them as well, so I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Optimus Gang win that one again.
No, Optimus Gang definitely the favorites there, but we are getting started with Insignum versus Sacred Speed Buff right off the bat. Insignum is still an absolutely strong team. Remember, it is only best of ones here in the minor leagues, so even if they did lose to Optimus Gang and Optimus Gang kind of taken over as the talk of the town, you cannot forget about Insignum. This team, Lazra, Death Panther, Joshi, all those dudes, still so impressive that you really can't overlook them.
No, not at all. I mean, it's at this point it is a best of one, right? And so that does mean that sometimes an early start can kind of hurt you a little bit, or just one mistake more than another. You have to win those sets. That's what your job is here. You got to win them. But I don't think that Insignum are any less strong than they have been all this time, right? They were the summer champs. They were there in spring as well. This team is the one, I think, even how good Optimus Gang is, that you really got to beat.
I completely agree with you. I mean, they've got that title underneath their belt of winning during the summer finals. So until that's taken away in the land, they hold the belt, basically, even if Optimus Gang's able to beat them once in regular season. If Optimus Gang beats them again on the rebound here on the second half of the split, we can talk. But until then, I think that Insignum's a team to beat.
Well, we're moving right into those picks and bans. Jingwei going to be the first pick priority, as some hunters already taken off the board, or at least the Chernenbach Freya, who you often think of in that role. But Bologna, the first pick there for Sacred Speed Buff. There's been some changes. That Berserker Shield now very core on this Bologna. Attack speed built her thing. So, I mean, that's a pretty strong pick right now.
It is, but this Jingwei pick first overall is a little bit out of place, it feels like.
It is surprising.
There are a lot of gods still on the table right now that you're used to be seeing picked early on, but Insignum seems to be pretty comfortable just trying to get their comfort picks here in this Jingwei and now the Sobek as well to try and stalemate that solo lane. Erlang Shen for the jungle for Lasbra, I think, is a great idea here for Insignum. It just brings so much control and great damage in the fights as well.
It is curious, right? Sobek or Erlang Shen would have been, I think, more valuable first picks over this Jingwei, but I guess in the end it doesn't matter. They got both of them, right? So I guess they're okay as Serket now comes in for Sacred Speed Buff to pair along with that Sylvanas. And this is tough. I mean, Insignum now have a lot of safety. All three of those gods are very difficult, I would feel like, to lock down. It's a ton of disruption in those fights between Tail Whip and the Erlang Shen with the taunt and the knockup as well. I mean, that's a great team fighting presence they've been able to secure here just in these first three picks.
And no Naja pickup either. I mean,
that is surprising.
Both teams have their jungler already locked in. Naja, the passive change now no longer provides.
Oh, you meant Bologna, right, when you said their jungler locked in, because we saw jungle Bologna a bunch.
No, I certainly hope not. I hope it's Serket. Please, Lord. I mean, look, Bologna jungle, not impossible to win with.
Sure.
That is my glowing endorsement for Bologna jungle.
It's not an insta-loss, right?
Exactly. You actually still have to play the game after that. But I do think that we'll see Serket in the jungle.
Yeah, a lot of mages get banned out here in that second ban phase, and Sacred Speed Buff take that opportunity to pick up the Morgan, who's been a very contested pick, I would say, through like the last few weeks of summer and coming here into fall as well. Morgan is really starting to rise up, and the mass, I think, really, Bumbas in particular, sort of accelerated that.
It's the Bumbas and the fact that her clear got better with that Dark Omen buff that really has accelerated the Morgan up towards that top end. And Thoth actually locked in a god that we haven't seen quite as much of as of late because of his nerf to Glyph of Pain no longer proccing item effects. It hurts his early clear pretty substantially. I love these two bans from Sacred Speed Buff. That's what Death Panther's been playing when he plays mages, is the Agni and the Discordia. Kind of forces him onto this Thoth, and I can't imagine that he's super excited about it. He's got great setup, and normally you'd be really stoked, but I just don't feel like Thoth is in a particularly strong position right now.
And Uller going to round that out, so now there's going to be a lot of pressure there for this Thoth to deal with. And you just talked about how his early game is a bit weaker now. So if that is where that ends up going, we'll see how it works out for him. Or rather, the Morgan going to be with him, Uller going over to the Hunter role. But definitely still some pressure for him. But looking at these, I mean, I know Insigniam is a stronger team on paper. You giving it to him based on the draft as well, or you think Sacred Speed Buff might have got?
Yeah, I think the draft for Insignium's pretty good. Sacred Speed Buff's draft is also solid. I like what they've got. They've got good CC, they've got good control in these team fights, good damage. But I just feel like Insignium as a team just works so well as a unit that it'll be tough for Sacred Speed Buff to win.
Let's end up seeing how it all works in practice. Game 1 here between Insignium and Sacred Speed Buff about to be underway. Let's go ahead and get it over to the casters.
Thanks so much, Finch and Aggro. Yes, it's myself and Taco on the call this morning for Insignium versus Sacred Speed Buff. Taco, you've been watching a couple of the minor league games through. Insignium looking pretty good, but they've got a bit more competition this year.
Insignium have definitely had their own fair bit of struggles throughout this fall split of the SML, and for good reason. I mean, other teams were bound to start trying to rise up, world contentions being on the line later on down the road. So, of course, everybody wants to get as high up in the standings as early as possible.
Look at this start, though. Speed Buff going to be starting in the mid lane with both the carries of the Morrigan and Flippo to try and get the early pressure on. Now that wave clear is going to be strong with an Ull and a Morrigan in the early game. So I wonder where they're going to go. It looks like going to be a red buff invade at the beginning of the game.
I like to see this from Sacred Speed Buff as well. You might as well try and abuse the early game aspects that your draft already allots for. Mr. Stefan's going to be able to hold down the duo lane by himself because of the fact that he's Sylvanas, so not really a whole lot of negative effects coming into play here for Sacred Speed Buff off of that invade.
Yeah, but a couple of roster changes in the minor league in Europe as well, with Mr. Stefan jumping around teams a couple times as well. Was playing mid lane a little while ago, but now finds himself 2v1ing in the support lane for Sacred Speed Buff, as still Streak Up and Flippo are continuing this path in of clearing mid, getting both the red buffs, and now it's allowed Get Fisher to get picked in the jungle, as potentially, but there's just not enough damage there.
Fisher might have been forced into leveling up the ambush as opposed to the Cobra's Kiss just to make sure that he could actually get away. Don't want to risk becoming the first blood casualty this soon when your team is the one that should have the majority of the pressure on the map, considering Sacred Speed Buff invaded the red buff from Insignium.
And the one thing to notice as well is it is going to be this Morrigan in the duo lane, so in the long lane for the magical damage dealer. We're not seeing many Morrigans in the Hunter position technically. How does it work out, Taco?
We haven't seen too much Morgan and Hunter. I think she was toyed around with a lot at the start of the spring split for Season 5, just because Hunter's Blessing at the time felt really strong on her. And lately, we've been starting to see a lot more Morgan just in general.
Yeah.
I think it's just because teams like having that secondary flex option.
Yeah, just having the ability to get any ultimate that you need at a moment's notice that's in the game, I think, is one of the reasons. And it always will be with the Morrigan, too.
And the main reason why the Sacred Speed Buff can get away with this also is because Genetics and Joshi, this is not an aggressive dual lane comp that they've opted for in
at least 1 through 3, right?
At least 1 through 3. Genetics and Joshi might start out clearing a little bit better here because Mr. Stefan can only do so much with the Sylvanas, but Streak Up has his own strong forms to clear as well. I do like what Genetics is doing, however, just trying to eliminate the wave as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I love the way he did that too. Like, preemptively go aggressive and then draw the attention of the teammates and the minions onto himself and clear them out. SB, gonna go in tower range for a second and eat a bit of poke from Zero there. Good work from the Sobek. I should expect to see at the same time as his blue buff is available. Lasbra's going to be over here to take that down. Big SB falls back to his own.
SB's not concerned about trying to play aggro early on. Bologna doesn't need to get the advantage during the initial laning phase. She's just working on her leveling right now. She just wants to get that Eagles rally online as soon as possible, and then we might start seeing a little bit more aggression out of Big SB. Kind of understanding that this is a slight counter matchup for him against the Sobek. Sobek having the tail whip and the pluck, two great forms of interrupting that bludgeon damage.
Well, however, he should be maxing Scourge if he goes for the Berserker Shield. We saw Deathwalker doing that the other day in the SPL. And when he went for the Bologna, he'd max the Scourge instead to make sure he gets infinite sustain with the Berserker Shield and the benefits you get from the extra sustain of the lifesteal. We'll find out if Bologna goes the same route at the moment. Big SB is doing that with 2 points in Scourge.
He's leveling the Scourge, but it looks like he's going for that on Kile or Runic Shield first and foremost. Berserker Shield maybe put on the back burner because...
I'm surprised by that.
I think it's just because he's directly against the Sobek. Wow. Speaking of which, trying to hit level 5 right now, focusing on clearing the wave, forced to use that shell because he wasn't able to kill the creeps in time. Only just now getting that Eagles Rally available.
But now that's down and Big SB is under pressure. Has the Eagles Rally away, but in comes the damage from Lasbro. Under the tier 1 he goes, perfectly safe, however. Remember, no teleport, and that's going to be awkward now as Big SB is out of health potions.
I also like that mini bait setup that Big SB just tried to initiate there. He held on to the Scourge, knowing full well that if Lasbra decided to commit underneath the tower, he could cancel out those follow-up in-hands from the Mink transformation.
And there, when you get the extra attack speed as well, and the ability to continue chasing and keep the pressure going. So, good little work from Big SP, but now he's pressured in the lane. Talking about pressure, you can see Insignum in the dueling going to freeze things up a little bit here for a minute. Trying to overextend Sacred Speedbuff's duo lane. Well, deny him farm more than anything else. A lot of teams still don't do that as often as I think we could see.
If you can force a Morgan out of position, that seems to be the intention from Insignum. Speaking of which, Big SB could be in some trouble here. Zero, however, doesn't have the Sickening Strike or the Tail Whip for follow-up. Already expended those cooldowns on the way. Touching back, though, onto teams not really ever taking advantage of freezing the waves. I think a large part of the reason for that is because they know that if they sit for too long holding that wave, then the other duo lane might just flat out rotate and look for buff invades. So it's also comes down to timing on when you want to hold those waves. You don't want a massive creep wave coming in when your buffs are coming back up.
Especially when the jungle camps are available, like the Oracles just were there. So they go the way of Sacred Speed Buff because the lane was frozen in Duo, and Duo had nothing else to do. Purple over towards Genetics then, as Streakup's going to solo down his Purple. Still no kills in this one so far. Checking in with the builds, we can see the Talaria boots online for Get Fisher. Something we've seen a little bit more of this season, this extra mobility in the jungle to combine, I guess, with how the speed buff functions these days of clear a camp and get some bonus speed too.
I feel like this is problematic, though, for Sacred Speed Buff. Speaking of which, Fisher investing the last breath already onto Genetics so soon. Deathbane gonna connect as well, but just nowhere near enough damage. No one close enough either to try and follow up onto that.
Yeah, Genetics already had his reinforced Greaves online too, so he had a bit more extra protections, I think, because of the dot damage that's going to come through there as well. But I still not so sure about that call to try and all in at that point on his own, especially with the combo that he did. But, you know, that ult's on cooldown for a minute, and we'll see if Insignum can abuse that situation.
Maybe concerned that Genetics would be able to keep Fisher out of combat and just in an awkward position, expecting a rotation, so wanted to use the last breath to avoid any form of a stun from the Terra. Either way, now Insignum know that they can have a power play moment if they so choose, but Insignum seem perfectly content to match the pacing that Sacred Speed Buff have set up, and the problem here is Sacred Speed Buff are not really taking as much advantage of their early game as they probably could be in mid and duo. I don't really want to see too many ganks from Fisher onto Zero over there and solo Sobek, a little bit too safe, and that survivability not really worth the risk.
Yeah, hard to get hold of top too, so I'd be more paying attention to Joe. Like, he did rotate for Genetics, but probably not the easiest target to bring down on your own at this stage of the game. Just a little bit too tanky at that moment.
But we've only seen the one red buff invade, and after that, Sacred Speed Buff kind of just dropped
chilling,
going for it, and it just feels a little bit out of place because they started out so aggressive early on, and then they kind of just let it fall to a lull, and now Death Banner, who's been allowed to just free farm this entire time pretty much, has just been under no sort of duress, and I think Flippo could definitely be abusing this a little bit harder on the Uler.
And I think that's the one thing from Sacred Speed Buff's point of view. They do still have the Morrigan in the back pocket as I see it though, so allowing him to farm up the late game is Death Panther forced to beads. It was a very late beads and he gets pulled in and eats an axe. But the dash to safety was good enough. 3-man route, however.
Lasbra is still looking for the knockup as well. Won't be able to find it for now, but the Erling Taunton is good. And it's going to be Sacred Speed Buff who are forced to back away. Now Insignum knows that they can go for the right mid Harpies, essentially uncontested. Still, Fisher trying to stick his nose in there to see if anybody would be willing to drop that for him, but instead, he's just going to have to deathbin away into safety.
Definitely interesting plays in the mid lane. I think if Death Panther had mana there in that situation, Insignum could have turned that kill around, but getting caught with those beads by Death Panther actually punished him a lot heavier than he would have liked to have been in that situation. So now Death Panther's a little bit suspect, a little bit strugglesome now. He's got to be careful to get Fisher because no beads available. It's an easy chance for a gank from Circat.
And it also seemed like that evade and punish came up just in time for Death Panther to slip away from the bladed arrow. Didn't get away from the hail of arrows, but looked like Flippo launched the 3-1 combo first.
Yeah, just in time there as well. Looks like Sovereignty is coming online for Genetics. Meanwhile, his opposition, Mr. Stefan, working on that Lotus Crown that's just been completed too, so nice amount of protections is going to be given to the team because of those wisps. I do like that item. Sometimes it's just hard to fit where in the build.
Sustain this early on as well could go a long way for Sacred Speed Buff. If they try to play a little bit more aggressively, it could catch Insignum off guard a bit, because they might not be expecting these wisps from Mr. Stefan to heal nearly as much as they will be with the Lotus Crown.
Des was talking earlier on as well about how the minor league functions in this split. The top 3 teams in the league format from the minor league of both EU and NA will compete in a round-robin mini-tournament to decide who comes to the World Championships and has a shot at getting to the big stage at DreamHack.
Speaking of which, Insignum, they're certainly looking for repeats on this. By the way, love the positioning of Genetics on those walls. Completely negated the Cobra's Kiss effects from Get Fisher.
Yeah, I'm really quite impressed with Genetics' play so far. I'm not going to lie, I've seen him a couple of times, but I'm like, okay, he's having some good moments in the sun, and this Terror play is, from my point of view, I hate playing Terror, but like he's making it look really good. So far, anyway.
Seems very thoughtful, at the start at least.
Yeah.
Panic and chaos can sometimes change that a little bit. Speaking of which, Zero actually going to meander on over to the mid lane following the big SP. Maybe both teams kind of expecting some aggression to take place, but Sacred Speedbuff realizing there just isn't anything up in Signum's jungle right now. Fisher's the one who's got to find that one out the hard way.
Yeah, those sort of rotations there makes me consider like a Gold Fury attempt, but the only team that would be happy attempting a Gold Fury is maybe Insignum because they do have that top to secure. Whereas Sacred Speedbuff, well, it's going to require a little bit more than that. Their burst secure is a little bit lackluster outside. Ooh, but even then, that's not enough. Beats down on Fisher though. He's going to take a lot of damage here, but going to get away in time. Still being chased by Joshi, however. On the back of the fight, Flippo's found Death Panther.
And Death Panther could be in a whole world of trouble here. Shell going to buy him some
Good
time
shots.
for a moment, but Flippo going to preemptively use the beads to avoid any form of CC so he can confirm the kill. Joshi now forced to airstrike away as Streak Up starting to become under fire from Lasbro, who's still looking to go it all by himself.
Yeah, he did go a little bit too deep there, and Streak Up's going to get himself a kill as well now. That's going to put him in a bit better position once more. 2 kills for Sacred Speedbuff, 1 for Streak Up, 1 for Flippo. Off an engagement in the jungle that was very strange.
It did feel forced,
Yeah.
if anything. And Signum, I think, thought they had the upper hand in that one, and so they continued trying to push into Sacred Speedbuff, but no one was expecting Fisher to actually get out as quickly as he did. I think the expending his beats definitely saved him out of a tight spot there, but it's mostly the fact that Joshi just got a little bit too distracted chasing after Fisher as opposed to joining into the team fight sooner to try and help peel for Death Panther.
Yeah, I think Joshi's just running around the map a little bit too loose there, trying to chase down kills. Obviously, he's a carry, so he wants those kills. But at the same time, stick with your team. I think this could have been a better situation for Insignum than it was. However, Insignum trying to get themselves a cheeky Gold Fury. Streak Up knows about it. He's going to try and sneakily get around the corner to try and secure this. And still Get Fisher was around there. Now he's going to look to try and get a kill. Ambushes up and down. Not the greatest call, as that's going to force him to fall down and give Insignum a Gold Fury and a kill.
No real chance for Fisher to try and steal that one away from the Confern of a Thoth, but I don't fault him for going for it. It's pretty much the only chance that Sacred Speedbuff had of not letting that Gold Fury go away for free, and Streak Up, as much as he wanted to try and become involved, he just didn't have anything available.
So Tier 1 does fall down in the mid lane, however, while this was going on too. So a little bit of an advantage for Sacred Speedbuff on the map basis. Without that Tier 1 in the mid lane, Taco, it opens things up a lot more in the jungle and makes it difficult for Insignum to, well, defend their buffs sometimes.
I think it just comes down to how Insignum choose to position themselves inside of the jungle. They can definitely abuse some of the corridors with Death Panther on this Thoth. You also can't really tell all the time where the hieroglyphic wall is going to be set up at, so the range that Death Panther has for potential poke is a lot more open, I think, in Insignum's favor than what it is for Sacred Speedbuff.
Problem is, though, is when the minions meet in the middle like this, if Death Panther gets picked here or attemptedly ganked, he's going to be under a bit of pressure. But it's Get Fisher without any beads, going aggressive against Lasbra, and not realizing that Insignum were just waiting in the wings to secure a kill.
He had 2 seconds left on his beats, just now coming back up off cooldown, but not available in time. And
time is everything.
That's a power play moment for Insignum. They're
Yep.
going to look to siege it immediately. Big SP trying to rotate over. Eagles rally straight into the middle of 3. They're going to leash the objective temporarily, but now Big SP is under fire.
So it's Flippo at the same time, who just gets away from the final judgment. SB, different story. Zero gets the kill for that. Pyromancer is reset. Left-hand side, Streak Up not rotated. Beautiful blink out of Zero to set up Mr. Stefan, who's now surrounded by an army of blue. And that blue will get themselves the kill eventually and then look to convert that into a Pyro as Streak Up does get the Tier 1 tower.
One positive throughout everything is that Streak Up was able to take off that T1, but now Sacred Speedbuff, they might have no idea that this Fire Giant is happening. If Fisher decides to venture over, he's probably just going to end up getting caught out yet again. So Fisher respecting his boundaries, just now
No, I
gonna
don't think
realize
so.
that this has been aggressed onto, and Lasbra is now on zone duty.
Still has his beads available and his ultimate, but just zoned out long enough by Lasbra. Round the back, Street Cup comes though, turns into Toth and eats some damage as much as he gave out. Flippo round the corner at half health here as Fisher's trying to draw the attention of the whole team. They have Fire Giant. Insignum have the Fire Giant. They're regenning, they get extra damage, and 13-40 minutes in, I don't think you should be taking fights at half health.
Speaking of which, Flippo gonna get spotted out as well. Fisher and Flippo seemed as though they wanted to pincer Insignum there, but both of them were underneath half health threshold, so rather questionable decision making, but it's going to end up costing Sacred Speedboat pretty heavily now.
It's one of those things that happen in SMITE where the enemy team gets an objective or something and you're like, we need to answer that back immediately. We can't be at a negative, we have to make sure we get back in the game straight away. At that moment in time, Fire Giant, you've got 2 half-health characters, probably not the best moment in time to attempt that. Now though, Insignum get that Pyromancer that started all this aggression originally and continue to extend their lead.
As far as experience and gold is concerned, however, sure, Insignum have the Fire Giant, but they're not that far away in the lead just yet. Sacred Speedboat are still certainly in contention for this one. They just have to be a little bit more mindful about when they choose to go in. It just feels like they've been forcing a lot of these engagements recently, and it'd probably be better if they just took a step back.
Well, now with Insignum and with the Fire Giant around the waist, I want to see him just take down some of these tier 1 towers before the next Gold Fury comes up. There's one in mid, one on the left-hand side that should be a real focus, and Insignum's starting to group on this left-hand side. But Fisher's here, and he's going to get the blink out of Lasbra defensively there. I think it was a good blink overall, actually, as the collapse was definitely on the cards.
Saves Lasbra his purification beads, if anything, and I think a blink for keeping beads is almost always worth it. Speaking of which, Sacred Speedbuff now realizing that they just lost an opportunity to maybe try and pick off Lasbra. They're just going to choose to back to base. They don't really have much more business sticking around there in the dual lane. A little bit too far up for their liking, I feel, because knowing Insignum had the Fire Giant, it's going to be very difficult to try and figure out where they're actually coming from. Lasbra did a great job at making sure to remove all vision.
Well, that was a preemptive Eagles rally followed up by Mr. Stefan, but Big SB enjoys his trip back to the fountain the hard way as a final judgment. Hits both Stefan and Flippo, and Flippo's going to be flipping back to base in a minute. Street Cup has to transform, but as doing so, he still gets taken out. There goes a tier 1 onto a tier 2. This could be a Phoenix.
I think this will be a Phoenix almost indefinitely. Big SB and Mr. Stefan still have at least 20 seconds with the full creep wave coming in here. There's no reason for Insignum to not just look to run this one straight down mid lane. Big SB had such good intentions behind that Eagles rally.
It's so telegraphed, though.
It's just too obvious.
It was
right
really
in the
obvious.
middle of everybody from Insignum. I don't even believe that everyone from Sacred Speedbuff was in position in time either. So just a little bit off with the timing there. If Sacred Speedbuff can be just a little bit more patient, these fights might not be as one-sided as they have been, but the moment Insignum find one pick, that just leads into the full-on collapse, and Sacred Speedbuff are so busy trying to retreat, they don't have time to maybe look and peel for their carries. They're getting picked off one by one.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem there was when the initiation happened from Big SB, the only one who could get in range, which was the core, Mr. Stefan, who blink and ulted too. Now, obviously, you get protections from the Eagles rally, but by the time the carries of the Hunters managed to get in a decent enough position to poke, they're already dead, bursted down by the whole squad of Insignum, who had a Fire Giant buff. Just want to remind you of that again. Yes, that Fire Giant buff does make an impact.
And the other problem, too, is Big SB is not particularly tanky right now either. So to Eagles rally that far forward without the rest of his team there to assist immediately, a little bit much right now. Maybe needs to reconsider, since he knows he only has the Runic Shield and the Berserker Shield, that he doesn't have as many protections, even with the Eagles rally, provided protections that he would need for the sustain. But I've been really impressed with Zero this match. I think that he's done a great job with these plucks. These plucks have been superb for Insignum's follow-up.
He's done everything he needs to as a Sobek on the front line too, and defensively minded. It's always an interesting dance when you look at the compositions of who's going to backline and who's going to frontline, and sometimes your role will change in a team fight, especially when you're playing the likes of a Guardian or a Warrior. Sometimes you have to peel, sometimes you have to zone or initiate, and Zero's doing all good work so far.
I'd imagine that Insignum perfectly content to let this Sobek run free. Zero already taking out half of Fisher's health, and Fisher forced the deathbane away one more time. It feels like this is what he's been doing, the same song and dance all game.
Seems so. Flippo just trying to get in towards this area. The Fire Giant's about to spawn and has done, and I think you're going to start seeing a little bit more focus from Insignum again towards that Sacred Speed buff with that middle Phoenix down now. Very scared of roaming around the jungle now. Ward coverage, it's all Insignum. I don't really see a ward on the map outside of one behind the Fire Giant for Sacred Speed buff.
Love this from Insignum, though. They're taking the T2 tower before going for the Fire Giant again, just in case Sacred Speed decide to push up and look to contest on the Fire. They're going to end up getting pulled really far out of position, and not having their T2 to fall back to could, in all honesty, dissuade them from trying to even challenge this Fire Giant from happening.
Love what Insignum did there. There was a little ping just towards where Streak Up was on that Morrigan, because that was the only threat of potentially getting him to steal that Fire Giant away without being seen. Stealth in, turn into tough, look for the final judgment. But with that quick ping from Insignum, it's just like, you know what, we're perfectly safe here. We can just take this down and continue rolling towards Sacred Speed buff space.
And Fisher just looking for farm wherever he can get it, even going so far as to head straight into Insignum's jungle with everybody over on Pyromancer's side. There's no real reason for concern here, and Fisher will get some very needed experience, but same can't be said for the rest of Sacred Speed buff. They're still there just waiting along for the scraps to start pouring in.
Yeah, when you look at experience levels, the only real difference between the two actually is the solo lane. Zero with a 4-level lead over Big SB. That's a huge margin at this stage of the game to be in, especially when you're approaching level 20.
But that's exactly the lead disparity that you don't want to see happening if anywhere on the map, because you know Zero is going to be capable of frontlining for his team.
Oh yeah.
Easily underneath those Phoenixes, and just in case, there's also genetics.
The problem is that when you've got something like Zero at this point in time with that sort of a lead, like you're saying, it means Kevin Fisher's going to have to ult him to try and help bring him down as quick as possible. But then you do that, and it leaves the carries free to roam around in the backline, like Death Hunter and Joshi on Jingwei and Top, which aren't the easiest gods in the world to get to in the first place.
Realistically speaking, I don't really see much of an opportunity, if any, for Fisher to try and find a pick onto Joshi and Dead Panther with the way that they've been positioning themselves so securely in the backline behind the likes of everyone else from Insignum. It might just be more problematic for Fisher to try and do a flank around.
Oh, Streak Up going for that flank around now towards Joshi and Panther. Both of them take a lot of damage. Streak Up transforms in to get Fisher's circuit, but he ends up ulting Zero on the backline. Joshi gets out, final judgment hits, but does not connect.
And now Fisher looking for the turnaround, will manage to find Zero inside of the
damage,
Phoenix,
man.
but the same can't be said for Fisher on the escape. Ambush won't be able to proc in time, and Streak Up
Oh,
now
caught him.
looking for the escape also.
2 shots to the back from Joshi, just trying to find Streak Up, and did a good job of that. This left on Phoenix is going to go down. The middle one might go down to Fire Minions at the same time. Flippo's going to be back there to try and clear them out as quick as possible. But Insignum might just want to push this down knowing it's so weak.
The only member who really needs healing is Lasbro, but they might not even need him because Flippo's already under half health. Joshi trying to find the last couple of invents to confirm it. Won't be any good though because Flippo did have that Aegis.
They should be hanging around here, and Insignum is given a chance for Sacred Speed buff to get back in. Streak Up gets one. Flippo gets another. Lasbro's running down mid. Genetics is offered an adventure on the right-hand side. But 2 Phoenixes still fall down. And Insignum find what they were really after.
Joshi and Death Banner probably kicking themselves for staying a little bit too grouped on the other. You don't want both of your carries in the same place because it will be easier in terms of setup for the enemy team to get burst damage onto you. But now it's Sacred Speed buff chance to try and push down this mid lane as far as possible. They probably won't be able to take anything more than a T2 if that, but just Zero's presence alone already forces Sacred Speed buff to back off.
Yeah, I think they wanted to go for red and gold, but Lasbro, well aware of that, just took down the red buff himself. He has it around his waist, actually. With the Fire Giant buff for a few more seconds, he could go in for some raw damage here. He's got Zero coming too. Gold Fury's getting low. Is he going for the steal or kills? Sacred Speed buff get the Gold Fury, and Insignum, you know, they threw out the cheeky attempts. That was about it.
That would have been a heavy blow, though, to
Oh,
Sacred
geez,
Speed
yeah.
buff had Lasbro actually managed to confirm that one. But fortunately enough for Sacred Speed buff, they're going to be able to hold on to life a little bit longer here. The main issue, though, is that once you lose even one Phoenix, the pressure is on. You know that you're going to constantly have to worry about that Firebird, even on its return, for not being as healthy as the rest of your base structures. And missing 2 Phoenixes will just allow Insignum to be able to push up mid and duo as far as possible and threaten those fire creeps, forcing away a member from Sacred Speedball, possibly even two, to go and attend to those lanes so they don't take too much damage on their Titan. But then that just leaves their right-hand Phoenix completely vulnerable.
And the Fire Giant too. Like the position of where those Phoenixes are down just makes it even more awkward. To the right-hand side we go. Lasbra is going to be pressuring mid with those fire minions, probably just clearing them out and pushing them in to force somebody from Sacred Speedbuff there. Wave clear for Sacred Speedbuff isn't the worst in the world with both Ghoul, Morrigan, and they're going to be in an okay position with Sylvanas there too. But keep an eye on Zero. He blink initiations or genetics with the walls that may crush down. Death Panther and Josh are just going to sit at the back and slowly play relatively safe, waiting for one of their carries to get out of position. Telegraphed again.
BSB who goes in first. Eagles rally right away, but they were expecting it from the start.
You could see it coming a mile away. Big SB, Zashu, Steefy, whatever you call yourself now. Stop telegraphing it. It's 2018. You were doing that all 2017. It's still not working out. Insignum, push back Sacred Speedbuff towards the fountain as their Phoenix on the right is going to fall. The fire minions on the left-hand side are just whittling away the Titan as Fisher goes in towards Death Panther looking for a kill, consumes his beats and his Aegis, but survives.
Zero won't be able to connect with the pluck onto Fisher, and instead he will manage to escape at the expense of his own relics. Well, it still has those beads intact, actually, so I take that part back. But all Insignum wanted in the first place was to see if they could even threaten the right-hand Phoenix. I am fairly confident that had SB never even gone in there to begin with, Insignum would have just fallen back to the Fire Giant, and then that would have given Sacred Speedbuff an opportunity to have both their mid and left side Phoenixes respawning. Now, they might get those two Phoenixes still, but they're going to have to be concerned that their right one is completely down.
Yep, another Fire Giants respawned again, and Insignum can just head their way back over that direction, as you were saying. Pretty much everyone reaching critical mass in terms of builds at this stage. Experience still required for a few members of both teams because it's been a bit fight-orientated since the 13-minute Fire Giant that we saw in this game that Insignum was basically handed to them thanks to a couple of interesting team fights around the Pyro.
What's interesting, though, is seeing Streak Up actually leading the charge for that player damage in the charts. It's incredible that despite Sacred Speedbuff being locked out of pretty much every objective on the map, Streak Up has still managed to find such promising, engaging moments for his team. It's just that they're too far behind in experience to properly follow up on them.
I think it's also because of how the fights have been started, too. When you've got Insignum's composition here, when you think about it, they have to dive. You've got Sobek that's going to have to go for a pluck, or Lasbra, Pin charging in, and Genetics too. Those three are designed to dive in. So why dive in as a Bologna? Why not just wait until they dive and then reinitiate the backline?
I do agree that Big SB should be waiting until Insignum are actually forcing themselves underneath the Phoenixes before going in. But also, I think that Big SB is just feeling pressured to have to be the initiating factor for his team because there's no one else to really take up that mantle. Who's it going to be? Mr. Stefan on the Sylvanas? He just runs right into the middle of everybody and dies because he's just a giant hitbox.
Difference is, though, that Beads and Knockup, I mean, Blink Knockup with the ultimate is a lot better than a Blink Stun. Just so you know, Knockup is better than Stun.
Usually. But the follow-up will probably still end up the exact same way for Mr. Stefan.
Same time, though, what do you want alive after the fact of the initiation? Would you rather have the Sylvanas that's lower level or the higher level Bologna?
I would rather have the Bologna.
Exactly.
For
and
sure.
That's straight away one of the reasons. Two Phoenixes back up, though, left and middle. Insignum going to split the difference and just keep sending Lasbra around the map, but they are actually going to group up on the left-hand side. Genetics going to start tanking it up. Zero looking for a pluck. Blink initiation from Stefan off the mark. Unfortunately, didn't find anybody with that, but a better pull onto Zero, who was forced to use the ultimate very early on.
They will get the Lurking in the Waters out of Zero, but with the next wave coming in already, a bit surprised that Insignum are playing this so passively. I think that was a great opportunity for them to just all collapse onto Mr. Stefan. He just Wrath of Terror in the middle of nowhere.
I think he's always scared of Morrigan, though. The late game Morrigan, you see a player damage for Streak Up 2, you know he's going to make an impact. Final Junior from Death Panther was looking for a very cheeky shot over the wall, but didn't find any target he was after. He's just trying to poke them down slowly. Mid lane is still fine for now. There's a full minion wave defensive. Lasbra's going to go in.
Beautiful job by Lasbra. Genetics
Up.
going to get credit for the kill onto Streak Up, but Streak Up was in the middle of his invis. He didn't have a chance to even respond. Lasbra getting a little bit lucky there, but also, the damage in the follow-up could not have been better played off.
Oh, I completely agree. I think that's the play from Insignum. They want to make sure Streak Up's not alive, and then they're going to be fine. Middle Phoenix goes down, and in goes Insignum, looking to end the game today against Sacred Speedbuff.
Fisher gonna get gobbled right up. Another pluck served and destroyed. There's Joshi now looking to push in with the rest of Insignum. Only 2 members left standing, but I don't think Flippo or Big SB have the damage to even bother defending this. And Big SB is just gonna pop the thorns right in the fountain, understanding that there was just no chance to keep Insignum outside.
Took 29 minutes, but really around 22, you could see where this game was going to go. Insignum kind of went through the motions towards the end and played it relatively safe and realized that Morrigan was the only real way back in there for Sacred Speedbuff, and they weren't going to allow that to happen.
I think even right around minute 14, 15, we started seeing the breakaway of Insignum trying to create a little bit of distance there between themselves and Sacred Speedbuff. And I just think that the responses from Sacred Speedbuff, while they had really smart intentions, it was just a little bit of poor execution on their behalf. And I think their desire to have such immediate responses also kind of led to things just being a little bit too rushed on a lot of those engagements.
For you guys as well at home, get a chance now to vote on your MVP from that game. There's a couple of names that you could probably come up with there that you think was useful.
I'd give it to Zero. I think that had it not been for Zero, half of those kills easily do not end up happening because he had such great blink initiations off the plucks, and it was just so easy for Insignum. I mean, what more is a Jingwei and Thoth? What could you possibly ask for other than that?
Janex had a pretty good game too, and Lasbert can't really be shied away from either. Even Death Panther had a pretty good one too there. So that's your choices for MVP for that one. We'll announce all the MVPs at the end of the day on the desk breakdown to recap all those games. But for now, Insignum take game 1 comfortably over Sacred Speedbuff. We're going to go to a quick break, and when we'll be back for the second game of today. Don't forget, 3 more to go in the minor league. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back to the SMITE Minor League. Finch and Aggro here as we continue through our trek through the minor league European games. I'm joined by Ryan Aggro Bailey. We're going to take a look at a good set here. Optimus Gang going to be playing. We just got to see Insignum, the other top team, so now we can take a look at the Optimus Gang.
And they're going up against the Poppies, and you expect this one to be one of the closer ones today, or at least one of the closer games that Optimus Gang has to deal with in the remaining portion of their schedule. They still have to play Insignum again, but they've already passed that test once. In fact, this is a team that has only beaten everybody else besides the Poppies. He's the only team that hasn't played up against Optimus Gang yet. So Optimus Gang looking to complete the first half of their split undefeated.
That's right. They'll be able to go right into the next half. Look at 5-0. This is where normally Insignum are able to pretty comfortably reside, but Optimus Gang have changed that up a little bit. But again, we won't know for sure until we end up seeing those teams play up against each other again. But either way, we are ready to move into the game here. The Poppies up against Optimus Gang. It's going to be the Poppies here as that first pick selection. I don't know. I was going to just automatically give that to Optimus Gang for some reason just now. I don't know why.
No, man.
It's Poppies.
That's Poppies' first pick. Yeah.
I'm sorry, fellas. I didn't mean to take that from you.
They didn't have to know that you were taking it from them. You just admitted to something like you turned yourself in, Finch. No one knew.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah. I'm honest like that. I turned myself in.
Okay.
As Freya and Rat get a band away, at least here by Optimus Gang and the Poppies. And last time we saw the Jingwei getting picked first overall, right, for game 1. So clearly some different priorities, I would say, down here in the minor league. It's always been, I think, that comfort picks have been a little bit stronger, or like priority picks for each individual god or player. So I think that might be the case here.
Well, it's not only that it's a little bit better in the minor league because you're not executing the same level as the pro league players, but it's also that these are best of ones. So
that's true.
Going for something a little bit strange right off the bat can throw the enemy team off, might make their draft a little bit worse than what they were expecting. So I think there is some value to picking things that you're not used to seeing super early in a best of one format.
That's going to be the case here as Naja once again not being valued to these early picks. Amaterasu will be selected, then Sol Aoquang. Athena, also one that has not been picked up in these first two. So the ones we traditionally see go instantly up at the higher levels. Even Baron, not here right now.
No, not quite yet, but Johnny gets Aoquang, so...
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that should be GG then, right?
Yeah,
we can go, I guess.
We can wrap this one up, or we have to...
Let me just... I can't...
We have to do it, I guess.
Going,
yeah, okay,
like,
that's fair. But Poppies have a chance. I mean, Agni's a good pick against Aoquang. That dot damage from his passive makes it a little bit harder for him to get away quite as easily with Water Illusion, because any form of damage will break that stealth. But yes, this is already looking very good for Optimus Gang with that Aoquang.
It just feels that way on paper, right? Johnny is so strong with this pick, and for what it's worth, Johnny's very good on most things he plays, right? But he definitely steps up another level in this Aoquang, and he does so by doing things that other players can't do. Like, he's a dominant force early on with the Aoquang, when a lot of other players kind of had to wait till they get a couple items online. So that could be strong for them. They also have Osiris, who I think is very strong right now, with Berserker Shield augmenting him as well. This draft so far looking good.
But no Athena ban quite yet from the Poppies. That's what I'm looking for. Baron wouldn't really concern me very much, and there it is. Okay, that's a very good ban from the Poppies. This just gives Johnny a little bit less protection overall, because Defender of Olympus is so good at bailing out characters that are in danger. That take that away from him makes him a little bit more vulnerable. I think that's a good idea. I do like this Neath ban from Optimus Gang, making sure that the Poppies can't consistently keep pressure on the solo lane or onto Johnny with that World Weaver.
They are going to pick a nice safe Hunter as well, trying to get that out of there. Maybe make it a little bit easier for them to potentially dive for that Aoquang. But, I mean, talk about the Poppies. They've got a lot of disruption. That might make life a little bit harder on this Aoquang, right? I mean, the Sobek is so good in these fights. Amaterasu is the silence. Agni Bombs are very good as well, trying to slow him down, even if we're not quite sure where he is, because they cover such a wide radius. I mean, they've got some tools.
And Susano as well now that has great disruption. I do like this draft from the Poppies. It does concern me a little bit that they have Susano in the jungle that takes a little bit to get going, and Aoquang's the same way, and which one's going to be able to do more? Usually it's the Aoquang. But I do think that this draft from the Poppies is pretty solid. Optimus Gang goes for Terra last pick. That's totally fine as well. You just get that extra bit of team fight presence that you may not have had with the Aoquang, who's more of a pick character. This Terra kind of facilitates the team fights a little bit more, almost makes up the lack of team fighting ability out of the jungle.
Let's go ahead and get right into the action here. Poppy's going up against Optimus Gang. I'm curious, though. It is a bit of magical damage, though, isn't it, right? With Ferriquick and Johnny in the middle lane. They even have this Terra who's going to be rotating over. I mean, sometimes in situations like this, I feel like we see junglers go for, like, on Keylays or Runic Shield a little bit earlier in their build pass because, I mean, for the most part, who's the physical damage you have to worry about if you're Worst Turtle?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Worst Turtle probably starting with an Enchanted Buckle, I believe, is the first part of that tree. But picking up an early on Chile, I think, would be a good idea. But like I said, Susano's early clear is kind of rough, so you need that extra power early on, or else you're going to fall behind in your clear speed. Maybe he can go for it right after Boots and then turn this Mace into a Crusher later on.
Certainly has the option as Fusify and Kaspanify forced the beads out from Chekio early on and the sprint. That's a huge win for Optimus Gang just in terms of relic usage. Now, the way they earned that is that they had almost no pressure with the minions, so now Poppies can move right into the jungle, but Fusify at least wants to be nearby while they grab.
Fusify is taking minions with him, though, and that's kind of denying them from Kaspanify as Purple still goes down for the Poppies. No steal there. Brings him back and ready for Kaspanify to bring him down. Yeah, that does hurt the Poppies right there to lose the beads for Checky and the sprint from Draco Marino. But to get Purple and lane pressure makes it at least a little bit better. And the chance of you getting ganked at level 2 by an Alquang is pretty low, right? Like, you're not as worried about getting ganked as if it were a Robin or a Cirquet or a Hunbats or something that can easily rotate over there and not lose a lot of pressure on their side of the map. So I think that it's not quite as bad as it usually would be.
Definitely shouldn't be too bad, but I like what Optimus Gang are doing, and you'll see this from dual lanes sometimes where they're kind of letting the wave kind of meet back at their tower line so they can pretty safely farm it without having to worry about getting too aggressed on. They kind of held it for a little bit. You saw Fusify running around, but Chekio and Draco are staying right at the tower line instead of going for their old purple buff and putting in plenty of damage.
Worst Turtle's losing his XP cams to the Alquang, and that's where this soul pick that Ferroquick went for in conjunction with the early Alquang is really there for this exact reason, to get pressure for Johnny a little bit and keep him at a spot where he not only won't get invaded, but might be able to do some invading himself.
He is low HP, though, so he has to be careful up against Worst Turtle and Warchi. Just a little bit of control from the Susano would spell trouble for Johnny because he's elected to go with this early blink. Doesn't have the purification beads to get him out of that. He has the aggressive option here, so he's just got to make sure he's mindful of it.
I think that's the right idea, though, is to go for the blink as Alquang early on. Against this team composition in particular, Water Illusion is so good at getting you out of quick CC. That includes Agni Bombs and, you know, the pluck from Julio and all that kind of chain CC that Worst Turtle can give you. Water Illusion is good enough that you really shouldn't be under pressure, and ideally, you're blinking in and killing someone before they can CC you at all.
That's right. That's the idea, right? Just sort of is to blow him up and then sort of have your escape path through that ultimate once he has that one online too. So Johnny will certainly have some tools as Draco Marino lands some nice poke onto Kaspanify over in dual lane. Kaspanify didn't have any health pods, but he is the Jingwei. I feel like poke against Jingwei is probably the least effective against hunters because she can come back so quickly.
Right.
And it looked like she was able to sustain up anyway, paired up with this Terra. So really, it was no big deal.
Dude, this new Alquang skin is absurd.
It is pretty cool. This is the one that turns into a boat, right?
Yeah, he just turns into a freaking like ship. It's not just a boat.
You're right. A boat makes it sound like small. Like no, it's a big.
You
ship.
take a boat on a lake.
Yeah.
You take a ship into the ocean.
Right.
You know, like this thing can hold easily hundreds of people.
Yeah.
On the trap.
Chekio standing tall this time inside. A little bit of Terra damage. This time not getting forced back as Warchi has already ticked over to level 5. Johnny looking for a chance to try and make it in, but Warchi is aware and will fall right back towards that tower line. In fact, going to look for the back since he's so low right now.
Warchi still knows that he can't back right at that point for free. Ferroquick takes a free bomb damage, but it stops Warchi's back, which is worthwhile. Make sure that Warchi doesn't get to back exactly when he wants to. It allows Ferroquick to get back to base first. He sticks the back. That means that he'll come back to lane first. And it's the little things, you know, obviously there's some fun you'll see in ranked and casual play where you'll stop the enemy back just because it's funny to annoy them. But the little sibling syndrome, but you also have that opportunity to make it actually count for you in competitive play as well.
Right back over here to the dual lane, though, where Kaspanify and Fusify have responded well, I feel like, to this early pressure they were under from the Amaterasu and from this Ram. The Ama was sort of giving them the ability to box early on and actually get decent poke on the Kaspanify, but a good silence comes in to try and slow down that combo, but Fusify gets it off either way.
Still means that the dual lane level 5 earlier for the Poppies, and their level 5 is also a little bit more impactful, I think. Now, Earth and Fury is obviously insane, but in lane, Airstrike doesn't give you a whole lot. It's more of a team fight traditional ultimate.
Right.
Whereas Checky and Draco Marino, they've got such great kill potential.
Oh, Kaspanify has to use that Airstrike defensively, just as you said, and it is going to allow him to reposition, but they got that pressure for free, really. No ultimate expended, no relics either. Kaspanify just had Airstrike forced down for free.
That's what Ama brings to that lane, is the ability to not only kill potential, but clear speed, rotational ability, you know?
Yes.
Just something she brings.
And a lot of things that Alma has that she brings to the table. And this is one of those picks, right, that when we first were saying, oh, nice double stun from Warchi, sets up some good damage in middle lane. But she's one of those picks where we're like, yeah, the map's going to be wider. You know, there's going to be more farm for everyone to grab. Rotation speed's going to be so important. And we're like, well, then Alma, right? Alma support's going to be huge. And like, and it was played some, but never a ton. It didn't take over. You know, it wasn't this huge thing. But this is, like you said, one of those things she brings. You know, that lane presence and the rotational ability as well once you're in this team fights that really can make this Alma strong.
It has definitely become more flavorful as of late.
Yes.
As you mentioned, it was played a little bit, was kind of flavor of the month. Then the month changed, and everyone.
Then it was like, oh, Guardians are pretty good.
Exactly. and now we're back to playing Alma again.
Draco Marino has gotten Fusify rather low, and Fusify will leave for Typhoon committed because Horse Turtle under siege in the mid lane is going to pull Johnny back in. Draco Marino there with the dazzling offensive, but they no longer have Warchi who had to retreat. Johnny incredibly low. Horse Turtle finds first blood for the Poppies and send Optimus Gang running.
That lack of beads in that spot, we talked about how Johnny can stay safe enough, but in that position, just a little bit too far forward, and I guess his water illusion must have been down in order to warrant that heavy of a commit. And the fact that Johnny didn't use it also a pretty good hint in that spot that he's not able to escape to safety, can't use his own ultimate to give himself CC immunity in that spot, or decides not to, I suppose. Don't really blame him. Don't know that he escapes even if he uses that ultimate, just as a momentary respite from the CC.
Now, Worst Turtle is, without his purification bead, Fusify was able to chase those out from him on the back end of that fight. So at least for a little while, the two junglers are even in that respect in terms of CC immunity. We'll see if Johnny has an opportunity to capitalize on it, because that is one of those items that can, you know, kind of make that execute a little bit less effective. But we'll see if he tries to capitalize. Warchi will grab his own red buff. So far, though, through this early game, things have been a bit slow. It's kind of what we expected. That was our first real fight that we saw. And I think, like you said, it was kind of just based around, they forced Warchi back. He was a little bit low. He had to step back out of the fight, and Optimus Gang thought they had an advantage. But Worst Turtle and Draco Marino able to catch Johnny without the dash.
I'd like to see this Worst Turtle heavy mace turn into a Brawler's Beat Stick, actually. Look at the Bancrofts coming from both Johnny and Ferric.
You're right, heavy. In terms of lifesteal from both of those mages, really, even though that's in the jungle, definitely could mitigate.
Would be huge. Also, you've got the lifesteal from Despainify. Fusify's got Earth and Fury, which is really relevant healing in the midst of the team fights. Berserker Shield from Sibby. Lifesteal from Despainify. That should absolutely be a Brawler's, and Warchi should follow up what should be a Chronos pendant, by the way he's building, with a Divine Ruin as well.
I love that cooldown, though, on Agni. Doesn't it feel so good? And he'll be full if he does grab that Chronos pendant between the Mage's Blessing cooldown boots and the Chronos. In fact, overcapping a little bit as he just barely dashes out. Well, just from the effect of it, he wouldn't be overcapped, but he'd be able to get beyond that 40% as Caspainify. In a little bit of trouble in duo. They're going to pull Johnny right back in, but Dash is there this time to allow him to reposition. They've kind of left Caspainify to his own devices in duo, and they're trusting him in that matchup.
Now, you say you love the full cooldown Agni, and it definitely feels really good, but I just feel like Agni's a character that you can get you have so many abilities that if you stagger them properly, you should have one up basically at any given time.
Sure.
And so cooldown reduction, I think, loses a little bit of value on him, where instead you can make every single cooldown do so much that you don't really need another bomb because your whole kit just killed someone.
You have to absolutely make sure you're getting the most out of it, I feel like, right? Unless you're really firing bombs at every person that steps in mid lane all the time or dashing all the time, then it isn't worth it, right? You'd be better off just having a stronger build. As Ferric barely makes it to Disapparate, Typhoon waiting, but Aegis is there to keep him alive. Ferric just barely makes it out.
Good knowledge there by Ferric to know just how far Typhoon is going to go, how long his Disapparate will last, and timing it well. Good plan by Worst Turtle as well, though. A lot of times players will see that Disapparate start, and they'll, she's out, you know, whatever. She's going to immune. Get all the damage that you can, and then able to nearly finish it off with a long-range Typhoon after that as well.
And it nets him that Aegis. That is an important cooldown now in Poppy's favor, that they'll have a little bit of an easier window there to grab Ferric. We were talking about maybe Worst Turtle having his chased out by Fusify earlier, but that didn't really net them much. He was able to stay safe. Can they return the favor here in the mid lane, as Warchi is certainly being liberal with the bombs. I like it. So at least there's some, you know, I think there's some relevance to it if he's going to be shooting them off all the time.
You're absolutely right. If you're building full CDR, this is the way you need to be playing it. And even though it's not, you know, my necessarily preferred style is, hold on, Fusify. uses an ultimate that not going to get a whole lot of value out of. In fact, he gets punished very quickly by the Poppies.
Draco Marino finds the kill, and Dazzling Offensive finds the stun right there to follow up his Julio, but he can't find the charge prey. He will go into the water, try and slow Sibby down. The bombs are there for the two-man stun. That means Farrakrick in a whole heap of trouble now, as well as Worst Turtle finds that kill.
Great chase by the Poppies, and that's all started by Fusify's very curious ultimate. Doesn't get a whole lot of value out of it. I mean, heals himself, sure, but that's about it.
Yeah, someone in that situation was incorrect. Whether either the rest of the team was supposed to be there or he was supposed to not do it, I guess. Yeah, and it doesn't work out for him. I really like Warchi's two-man stun on the back end of that, too, because originally the target was Sibby. He's the one overcommitted. Julio was trying to track him down. But once they realized they'd be able to get the lockdown to Farrakrick, too, they just swapped right over and took down the much weaker mage. Worst Turtle able to chase him underneath the tower, and that nets him a really nice kill.
So it isn't a Brawlers, it's a Crusher for Worst Turtle, and now it's going into Hydra's. Hydra's definitely feels pretty core to me on Susano. His auto-cancels are just probably the best in the game with how many he can get in between auto attacks, or between abilities, rather. Hydra's won't proc on every piece of Storm Kata anymore, because that was pretty absurd, but still a very worthwhile item for him to pick up. But it does mean that anti-heal is being delayed. Now it looks like Warchi isn't going for any anti-heal at this point. Concerning.
This is good. I was just about to say we hadn't seen the boat at all game. We still won't get a chance to, but Johnny does at least make sure we find a nice kill. Julio is going to take a seat.
That's right before Julio gets his magical protection really online. Not very close to it at this point with just that Voidstone one.
Now it's going to be Draco Marine trying to defend, but also some trouble over on the left-hand side because Spanify and Fusify have themselves a tasty ROM to look at. Not going to be able to lock him down with the roots, but as long as Caspanify hits the shots, it might not matter. Persistent Gust gets it done.
Much better ultimate that time from Fusify. Make sure the kill goes their way on that left-hand side of the map as Worst Turtle playing aggressive and early Aegis from Farrakrick, but it is enough to save his health bar. Maybe he really needs to stick around a little bit longer, but probably wants to back pretty soon anyways because he's level 12 and has access to that second relic.
And hasn't picked it up just yet. Warchi, though, has figured out that Fusify, Expanify here, that is his dash down as he looks for the stun. Wall not going to come through either, so Warchi is still able to get awesome abilities, but Farrakrick drops the Supernova, sets up 2 more kills. Warchi at least gets Fusify in trade, but now Draco Marino in some trouble. He'll make it back to the Tier 1 tower as Johnny a little bit further ahead than the rest of his team.
Johnny really looking for that execute, but both Julio and Draco have their CC immune ults available, so I don't think that'll happen anytime soon for him in the mid lane. Great ultimate by Farrakrick, and that tiny little corridor really sets you up beautifully for good damage in that spot as Johnny able to successfully steal away the speed bump, but a great pluck on the completely stealth Johnny. Not going to reward Julio with the kill, but
he missed the one earlier on Sibby. This man's nuts, right? In the middle lane, I thought that would have set up a much easier kill on him, but sometimes I think shots are the harder shots in rhythm. These really top-level players, man, are just able to hit those because, you just got to be so quick with them, and you can kind of do them in rhythm.
Julio losing that Tier 1 tower and right is actually pretty relevant. A lot of times, especially for Sobek, you go, who really cares? He's Sobek. He's probably not going to die anyways, but Johnny has enough damage that he really can pose a real threat to Julio. And now without that little bit of extra protection for the Alquang, that he can't really tank towers because his health pool is so low. He's got longer to go. Sibby has so many consistent slows. I think Julio is probably really regretting losing that Tier 1 tower, whereas most of the time it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, and it might even free up Sibby to make some more rotations here a little bit earlier than we might be used to. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of Osiris around. Try to have an impact here in the rest of this team fight as bombs are dropped in the middle lane. Not much going to come from that one, but a lot of the times an Optimus gang does well, it is off of Johnny. But I think it is likely also to be off of Sibby, who wins his lane matchups so often, who does have impactful rotations. If he is freed up to start moving around a little bit more, that's big deal for Poppies.
It's the usual thing, right, where Alquang's going to be camping solo. You got to know that coming in because that's usually his easiest execute target because that's the player most likely to be isolated and without purification beads at any given time.
Charge Prey lands and Fusify had the purification beads available. Typhoon goes through, but Johnny ends up getting caught out. Warchi falls. Worst Turtle takes down Johnny, so it's 1-for-1, but Sibby makes the trade a little bit less in their favor, takes down Worst Turtle.
Julio on the run, but Fusify doesn't want to let it go quite yet. Sibby really focused on Julio, and now will switch targets towards Draco Marino as Caspadify ults in to try and assist, and that's going to cost him both his relics and his life. Caspadify.
Chekio's right there to find a little bit too far forward. Sibby will eventually find Julio as Chekio drops the beads, but now with a chance for the snipe, he's got the scope out, looking for Sibby, can't find him. The wall's still there if Fusefi wants it, but he's rolling in. Chekio wants to take the man fight up against Sibby, puts him down.
That fight was so good for the Optimus gang until it was so bad. I mean, that dive from Caspadify, it was just poor, to say the least. Good body block via use of the walls from Fusefi there to try and escape Draco, though Draco's movement speed is going to make that pretty difficult, though it looks like Fusefi has given him the slip. That fight should have gone much better for Optimus gang.
It really did start off on their foot. I believe it was initially the 2-for-1, and it was, again, what we were just talking about, right? Sibby had a nice rotation over. It had a big impact. But as you said, they overcommit underneath the Tier 1 tower. They couldn't quite finish off Draco and Julio, and they end up paying for it. In fact, now Poppy's looking for Gold Fury, but I don't know if they're going to stick on this. A lot of Optimus gang are on their way.
Caspadify has no relics for a little bit, and this is still a pretty good time to fight because of it for the Poppies. But if I'm Optimus gang, I'm willing to take every fight the Poppies will give us while they still don't have any anti-heal whatsoever. No Pestilence quite yet. No Divine Ruin still. No Brawlers coming soon for Worst Turtle, as he looks like he's going for something like Heartseeker or maybe a Masamune. This lack of anti-heal is really puzzling to me because Optimus gang relying so heavily on the sustain via their items and their god selections.
To be honest, they really haven't gone into many pin options yet. Like we're seeing Orchi waiting a little bit longer on his, looks like 4th item pin, where maybe a Divine Ruin could come through. That is one more reason why it's being pushed a little bit later on. As Optimus gang grouping up around this Gold Fury, Oracles are here. And there will be a small spat over that. Not a small one at all. Fusefi going to dash in. Will find that root. Sibby now the front line as he works with Johnny to collapse on the back end. But Orchard's putting out big damage. But it's not going to be enough to save the life of Chekio. Johnny finds him.
No execute for him, though. Who cares? Because Caspadify takes down Draco with that airstrike. Julio locked in, body blocked away from the pluck. And nice. Fusefi well earned by his play.
Yeah, Fusefi really has played well on this Terra here so far. His first turtle pulls in Sibby. Not entirely sure that's the fight you want to take up against this level 16 Osiris right now, while the rest of Optimus gang grab that Gold Fury. Johnny and Sibby there together just to make sure everything's good. Gold Fury goes down 3-for-0. Optimus gang come out of that fight heavily the favorites.
Johnny trying to chase out Worst Turtle, and he's got him.
We haven't seen the boat all game. How is that true?
He doesn't have an execute yet. The Poppies have picked around the Zhao Kuang pretty well by picking gods that have low cooldown ultimates that give them CC immunity, especially in the solo lane and in support, where he's usually used to finding those executes. But Johnny's also been kept down a little bit.
He has been a bit behind here as Warchi has used the Aegis to get away from the initial damage from Johnny, but he deletes him with a little bit of help from Sibby. Now the 1v2 up against Draco Marino. Beads will get him away from the actual stun. Execute threshold comes through, but Johnny can't stick around, and Julio cleans him up.
Sibby will knock down Draco in response. That's certainly still in favor of the Poppies, at least in that individual trade, but overall, only killing Johnny when Optimus gang get Gold Fury, Pyromancer, your speed buff, and killed 4 members or whatever it was. Definitely not in the Poppy's favor. In fact, this has put OG heavily in the lead.
Yeah, experienced one's what's really going to be a problem now as that approaches the 12,000 mark. Gold way out in their favor too. And look at this Typhon's Fang coming out from Johnny. This really has now gone from just the we like Bancross into, yeah, well, life steal's what we're trying to do. They gotta, they gotta anti-heal it and try and put a stop to it. Looks like Julio might be going towards that Pestilence to try and slow it down. That could be one option for them, but I mean, it's so little.
That's so little. Yeah. And Warchi is just now finishing his 3rd item, whereas Johnny's got 4 full items. Ferrocrick's up 3.5 nearly, and they're just without a doubt more impactful than what Warchi has. It's another reason I don't really like this cooldown build is that Chronos Pendant's expensive, and you really better be getting really great value out of it in order to justify its pickup, and I just don't know that Warchi has. He's been putting out good damage. He's been playing the way you should be playing if you're going for this build. I just don't think it's very good now, because now you're forced to get Book of Thoth to make up for your lack of power in your first few items, and then that's just delaying your pen even.
Johnny looking for the 1v1 against Chekio. He is going to find a nice bit of damage there as Warchi falls to Fusefi in the middle lane. Johnny will wait on Chekio when he lands. Can we see our first one this game? No, the Exio gets beads. Johnny still gets the kill, but I'm still disappointed.
Worst Turtle is able to get over there and clean it up. Good work by Chekio to at least get Johnny low enough. His worst turtle, his beads and ultimate now down, but he's got some pretty good mobility here with that 1000-fold blade. He might be able to escape.
Susanu's a character and a half, isn't he? This Susano, man. I mean, Typhoon to knock up 3, and he's able to get right out of there. They're going to keep chasing him, but at this point, Worst Turtle should be out of there and be able to find a way to back at this point.
Yep,
so
he's out.
A safety now for that Susano pick, but Johnny up against Chekio in the dual lane was eventually able to find that kill. But like you said, they have so many tools to get themselves out of it. The execute just not going to be, I think, a big part of what works well for Johnny on the Ao Kuang.
But that's where good Ao Kuang players can play around that pretty well. Now, if he's able to get some executes, don't forget that gives him even more magical lifesteal, which with this Typhon's Fang translates into even more power pretty quickly. But he also just has that ability to kill you without the execute.
Right.
Really relied on the execute.
He's had to do it all 4 times so far.
Yeah, exactly. Ao Kuang's more reliant on execute in the early stages anyways, because his burst damage doesn't take you from 100 to 0, it takes you from 100 to 25, and that's where the execute comes in. Now, execute's nice. It'll buy him some time out of combat, give him a heal if he can get a tank or a carry and let him reposition nicely. But he can also just murder you and doesn't really need anything else.
We saw that in that matchup up against Chekio, who's certainly no slouch at this point, at least is the most farmed there on his own team and very nearly able to win that trade was that ROM. So we can see Johnny still has plenty of damage even without the executes. As Fire Giant being looked at, because Spanify has already put some shots into it and it's taken a little bit of poke from it, but really Optimus Gang weren't in position. They drop it, and they're going to set up for the full siege as Chekio and Sibi are still way over here in Duo.
I like Sibi being called to defend that tier 1 and left because he still has teleport available, so he can come and join this fight if necessary and can win the 1v1 against Chekio at this point, I'd imagine, just because of the thorns that he has in the inventory. In fact, he ults after Chekio, even diving the tier 2.
Yeah, he definitely wants this. Is going to force out the ultimate, and now Draco Marino has been pulled over here to the left side as well, just trying to make sure that Chekio makes it out. This 2v1 is strong, but I mean, Sibi's level 20. He's an Osiris. He still has a lot of tools.
Plus that Guardian male. I mean, Draco could commit the ult here, and he will, but I don't think they're killing him.
Thorns comes out. That does deter Chekio a little bit from wanting to keep going with those autos. Now comes in for the 2-man stun. That sets it up for the Aegis to have to be used. Sibi very nearly finding the kill there. Chekio, at this range, should be able to shut him down. They will find the kill, but now Fire Giant, it's a 4v3 on the right-hand side, and Optimus Gang secure it.
But his Manify's pretty low. Julio trying to chase with that lurking in the waters, but OG looks pretty safe.
They do indeed look safe. In fact, they're the ones aggressing. Johnny, again, unable to find the execute, but is able to find the kill. Julio will eventually fall. Now it's Worst Turtle and Warchi, and Warchi has been stunned. No beads available. Dash is already down. A great stun, and the return kill because Spanify over the wall with the airstrike gets him.
But on this left-hand side, look at this duo lane. Chekio and Draco Marino trying to get this Phoenix. Big Archer minion wave, but they don't have the Archers hitting the Phoenix. They're on the other wave, and Caspadify comes in and says, no, 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 no. That's not how this is going to work. We get Fire Giant, we just deicide your team, and we are the team to beat right now.
And they did get the tier 2 tower, but I think without that Phoenix, Ryan, and I got to get your thoughts on this one, it's just not worth for them. I mean, they commit Draco and Chekio a long time to try and take down Sibi. They're not there to defend the Fire Giant. They grab that on the back end. They even win the fight on that side of the map, too, and they grab a couple more kills. I mean, I just don't think it pans out.
Once Draco and Chekio are there, though, there's no way that they get to rotate over and impact that fight on the right-hand side anyways. So pushing for Phoenix is the right call once you've rotated Draco to the left-hand side. I've got no problem with the call there from the Poppies. Their 5-on-5s haven't been going great anyways. Plus, Sibi has been an absolute nightmare in those 5v5s. He's been basically unkillable. So if he's separating himself, we can kill him, get some global gold that we desperately need. It obviously doesn't work out. Hindsight's 2020, but I don't have a problem with the overall call. The Poppies, and Julio in particular, needs to try and frontline and get into that Fire Giant pit a little bit earlier. It's obviously very difficult to do that 4-on-3, especially when Julio isn't ahead by any stretch of the imagination, but that's the idea.
Right, he needs to kind of go in, and if that fight happens, it can't happen after the Fire Giant's already done, right? It's kind of too late to take the 4v3 now. Your essential fourth member is the Fire Giant itself, and you try and take it with all that damage there, but not able to quite execute on it. Optimus Gang now come out with 11,000 gold lead, which is pretty substantial still. Nearly 20,000 experience And not everyone's level 20 on the Poppies. Even some of that experience lead is still relevant as Sibby continues to do literally whatever he wants to.
He'll get stunned and plucked and not care.
Yeah.
Because why would he? Warchi and Worst Turtle both have anti-heal now. So bless up. Maybe they can win a team fight.
There we go.
At this point. Now it might be too late by now, but it's going to help. There's no doubt about that.
He's going to limit. They're going for his Ollie Namicon even comes in the back end for Ferricrick, trying to give him a little bit more damage on those autos. So he's sort of in between here as well. I've been trying to follow where these souls are going, but it looks like when they're getting picked now, it really is a bit more leaning into the auto attack focus. This is kind of in between, I'd say, but still definitely some focus on those in-hands.
Polynomicon on Soul, you feel like is really good, but sometimes doesn't work out.
Sibby is going to be the one that goes forward. Earth and Fury comes out from Fusify as well. Up in the sky is Chekio looking for shots on the back line. The second one misses, the first one hits, the third one's there too, and Worst Turtle gets Johnny before an execute can come out.
Worst Turtle still on the run though from Sibby, but Blake not available for him. Warchi here to support against Sibby.
Okay.
And Poppies get 2. Finch, would you look at that? They got some anti-heal and they're killing people.
Caspanify is able to find Julio, but nowhere for Fusify to go. He'll fall to Chekio. Caspanify very low. He's got to keep going on the retreat path. He does still have the airstrike if that ends up being needed, but Poppies put up a big defense on the right Phoenix. It looks untouched, essentially, as they send Optimus Gang running.
It was really just good poke from Warchi on a Caspanify to start that engagement, and that put Optimus Gang on the back foot right away.
Already looking for some damage. He is going to rain the bombs on Caspanify and hit him before the airstrike comes out. Shut down by Warchi on the Agni here in the middle lane. And this Agni's starting to come on a little bit for them, too. It took a little bit longer because, like you said, it was so much cooldown and not much power early on, but Book of Thoth is here and getting stacked. Divine Ruin for some pen and anti-heal. Warchi's starting to get there as well.
He's been playing great so far for the Poppies. The build did hurt him, I think, but now once you reach this point,
yes,
you feel really good about it. It's just that I think the power curve is a little bit wonky to get here, but we're here. We've arrived, and clearly it makes it a lot harder for Optimus Gang. They lose everybody in that team fight, a delayed deicide for the Poppies, and they're still down 10K, but their anti-heal makes these team fights so much easier for them.
It really is going to limit a lot of what Optimus Gang can get done just in terms of their, in terms of their sustain. So the Poppies have been looking for it here. They're going to try and defend on this Fire Giant as it comes up in just a few seconds. Or they might not. You think Poppies should be here for it and try and fight in the jungle, or do they still have to fight on the Phoenixes?
I don't mind contesting this fire, but I also don't mind giving it up. This is kind of a play stylistic call in my mind, because there is the fact that this Fire Giant is going to be enhanced. So it's better than the last Fire Giant that Optimus Gang had. But you stuffed them pretty hard in that team fight, and why try and change it from what just worked for you, I think is a pretty reasonable line of thinking for the Poppies.
Yeah, essentially just rim protecting excellence that just came out from Poppies.
Now they just need that 6 to 8 foot fadeaway jumper. And
that would really seal the deal.
And there will be no team like them.
Not at this point for Optimus Gang. Who are trying to remain undefeated still here, Ryan. That's kind of what's on the line for them. They got that nice win earlier on up against Insignum. And it's not, I don't want to make it sound like a big surprise. Optimus Gang have been right there beneath Insignum the whole time. Essentially, last split, all they lost to was Insignum, right? So it's not as if this is a huge big deal for them that they're suddenly this good. They always were. But now they have a chance really to try and defend that first spot, go into those sort of playoffs to get into the placement stages as the top card and make everyone else try and catch up with them. Poppies, though, want to try and put a dent in those plans early.
And this is going to be a good blueprint for teams to follow if the Poppies are able to come back and win these late game team fights, on how to handle Optimus Gang's late game, which is really just centered around Johnny and Ferricrick and Caspanify. I mean, their frontliners are going to be here just trying to facilitate, particularly Sibby, who his damage is no longer relevant at 29 minutes. He's really just the hit me bot, and we'll see how well he can absorb those cooldowns and stay up, because really you just need to create space for Johnny.
Warchi feels like the most instrumental member here, as he has to find good damage from safety. Fusify goes in looking for the root, doesn't find much, and will still come back. All relics available, so this team fight is still very, very fresh despite this poke stage, but there it is. Ferricrick gets chunked a bit. Warchi's finding the big shots. You gotta watch him.
He's just hanging by this wall and no one's looking at him, because Painify's got relics, he doesn't use them, and Checky immediately eliminates him.
And they're going to keep surging forward. Julio was lurking in the waters. Dazzling Offensive was there as well. Johnny's lurking to try and find a way into the fight, but there's really no way in for this Ao Kuang right now. Worst Turtle is way on the right-hand side, but look at this. Optimus Gang want to keep coming, but they keep letting Warchi find 3-man stuns.
Unbelievable. And good Typhoon from Worst Turtle, and Optimus Gang now has to get on the run as they're looking for Farrakrick. Worst Turtle will get his 3rd in a row. Sibby's dead to rights. Man, Optimus Gang has got to do a better job of than this of sieging. I mean, that Agni is a frustration factor on sieges. I get it. But I mean, Warchi's standing in the same place again that he was in the last siege. And again, Caspadify gets poked out. He's the forward-most member for some reason. It's just poor positioning. And you have to understand what the enemy team's going to do to you, and that's let Warchi poke you out. So don't let him poke you out.
That's exactly the strategy that works for them, as the first Phoenix of the game could be going the way of the Poppies, because Banify's on the backside, has to use Aegis to immune the damage. Warchi now taking tower shots, and that could put a dent in this Phoenix siege potentially, as now the Poppies are on the run. Julio's very low and being chased out by Johnny, who certainly would be happy to find his first execute here up against him if he permits the chance, but the Poppies are going to run.
Johnny's still giving chase, as is Caspadify, despite not having Sibby here with them, because Sibby has that teleport available, and there's plenty of wards to choose from around the enemy base. Fire Giant still on Johnny and Fusify, and that's not irrelevant. Certainly would like it on Caspadify to hit these Phoenixes as you would with Farrakrick, but not horrible to try and use them. Use those Fire Giants on Fusify and Johnny to maybe attempt another siege, but only 15 seconds left on it. Means they'll just wait it out. The Poppies really elongating this game, and Optimus Gang, even though they're undefeated, this is it's clear that they've still got things they need to work on.
Yeah, I think that you can sort of look at this, look at these sieges in particular, and despite Johnny's impact, which has been good, he's still leading his team in player damage, 6, 5, and 8. He has still been all over the map. I think we haven't seen the same sort of Ao Kuang play that we've seen from him normally. This is a muted version of his Ao Kuang play. I think you can still make the case for that, despite how good he looks here today. And maybe there's a chance for that. Limit what he can do in the early game. They pick these compositions where there's not as many opportunities for him to find those executes and then re-engage or safely disengage. They've really kind of hamstrung.
Spy dashes forward, but now he's alone. Earth and Fury on just himself, and Julio tries to continue the chase. Shell is pretty solid, but that won't save his life. Julio gets him.
Now Sibby is going to be the one going forward. He wants Chekio as Farrakrick ends up falling on the backside. Sibby will indeed find the enemy hunter to make it 2 for 2, but Draco Marino looks to rectify that shortly. Sibby will certainly fall. Johnny finds Warchi and is able to dash away safely to get out of there. Julio now in trouble underneath Caspadify.
Caspadify kind of left to his own devices, and he's handling it against Julio. Draco ditches his solo laner and uses that Amma movement speed to sail away.
It is an aura.
Into the sunset. It is. You can give it to your teammates, but fairly decent
Not
chance.
me.
Draco, well, they're worried that Johnny is going to come in and execute them, though Johnny's execute is down, so yeah, they probably should have grouped up a little better.
Caspadify was still swinging in that fight, though. Maybe that was just respect for this Jing Wei damage at this point in the game. They did do a good job making sure that, you know, they limited some of this lifesteal and healing that's coming out from these teams. But I mean, how much are they doing to stop this crit build that's coming out from Caspadify? I mean, Deathbringer, Wind Demon, Poison Star. We see it built often for a reason. It's pretty good.
Lots of crit chance, especially with explosive bolts. You're basically guaranteed to hit some crits in at least one of those 3 autos. Obviously not statistically, but I would cry about it if I didn't get one with this build and 3 explosive bolt shots, upping my crit chance. And so this late game for Optimus Gang is so difficult to deal with because Johnny's playing Ao Kuang, who's the best late game assassin. Farrakrick's playing a great late game mid laner. Banify's playing a great late game hunter. But the Poppies are still holding their own. And all it'll take from Optimus Gang, at least in my estimation, is not getting triple bomb stunned. That'd be a good place to start.
I really honestly think it would be. They got to find a way to get to Warchi. And if they're pushing in, they're setting up, a lot of the times you'll see teams kind of just swap, force the Poppies to keep resetting their defensive positioning, something like that. Break off a little bit and pull one member over. We see it all the time. Optimus Gang have been a little bit obstinate about trying to force the door down.
That usually works a little bit better with a physical assassin that can actually kill a Phoenix quickly. Just walk in. Yeah, this is perfect. Just walk at it.
They are going to go in and drop the Earth Fury on everyone. Sibi comes in right away, and Shekio, Warchi have been heavily forced back. Julio has to use the ultimate. Supernova does get in some good damage, so Optimus Gang fall back for a moment, but Warchi's right back to his spot and puts Fusify down.
This is Warchi's stoop, and there's no reason for him to leave it. Like, this is Warchi's home now, is that left side wall where there's a ward, because Optimus Gang knows that that's where Warchi's going to be, and they still can't really stop it. So I say walk at them, and that's the right thing to do. Wars Turtle does a good job of use Typhoon to disrupt the back line of killing the Phoenix. But even with Typhoon, and even with Dazzling Offensive, which is actually up, so it wasn't even used in that spot, it was just lurking in the water, and Typhoon, with a Polyproc from Soul, with an Enhanced Fire Giant, and a Power Pot, a 3K pot now for Caspadify in this next one, it'll take, what, 7 autos combined? Just hit the Phoenix.
They've got to do it. Oh, Caspadify very nearly found Worst Turtle, and now will very nearly find his way to the grave. Chekio should be able to find him once he lands from the sky. Warchi is the one that gets the credit, and Caspadify, I think, not realizing just how many Poppies players were there.
Well, to be fair, it's only at their blue buff on their side of the map. And to be fair, he has no wards on that side of the map either. So dashing in that spot actually makes a lot of sense.
Unfortunate for the rest of
being
Optimus
sarcastic,
Gang.
by the way.
Oh, I got it.
I wanted to make sure
Unlike
everyone
Chad, I can see the face you're making. So that hurts Optimus Gang a good bit here now that they don't have this Jingwei available to them. But that's not going to deter them from aggressing. Sibi commits to the Lord of the Afterlife on a check. Johnny comes in the backside. Aegis to immune the damage, and he has to jump out right away. Ferrocreek will find a double kill in the back end. Drinker Marina now has to go up into the Dazzling Offensive, but what can he find there? Not much. The team will disengage except for Worst Turtle, who wants to find Johnny.
Good ultimate from Ferrocreek. It looks a little bit strange, but he lays it at the feet of Johnny for if Worst Turtle was able to close that gap, it would have disrupted him and likely killed him. That fight started in a strange time by Sibi, but it ends up paying off anyways for Optimus Gang. That was a good preview of Johnny's damage in these team fights and how his Water Illusion did nearly 600 to Warchi and Checky. So now, maybe without Warchi on the map, Optimus Gang can get a siege going in their favor.
Oh, almost certainly. Warchi's been instrumental to how their siege defense so far, as Worst Turtle has that Mad Guy's Cloak stripped away from him, from Fusify. Phoenix is still relatively healthy as they're focusing more on the fight than the structure. Now they turn their attention to the bird and try and put some damage into it. Ferrocreek and Caspadify unchecked, and that will indeed be the first Phoenix coming down the right-hand side.
And once Warchi's up, we're not fighting that anymore.
Oh, who wants to?
As Optimus Gang, at least it feels that way. Now, Caspadify has pushed mid lane in, but Sibi and Fusify are a little bit poked out. They're a little bit above half HP. You do have some healing from Terra Monolith, but with the way that Warchi's been poking out your entire team this whole game, starting below 100% is a little bit harder.
Optimus Gang are sticking around, though. They don't have Fire Giant for much longer, so that buff will start to fall off in their positioning as if they still want to make this happen. But Ferrocreek has left. They're just stripping away the jungle at this point. Optimus Gang have given up on the siege for now. I want another minute until that Fire Giant's back up. Grab what they can off the map and come back in geared up and ready to go. But, I mean, we're almost 40 minutes into this one, Ryan. At this point, yes, the potions do make some difference, and more substantial, I think, now after their changes as well in the late game. But for the most part, it's just the Fire Giant that's the real big difference between these teams in these team fights.
The 3K pots definitely make a difference. The 500 potions, I could do without. I mean, they don't really, they help. I'd definitely rather have it than not, but it's not going to make or break a fight. Most of the time, it's the 3K pots that make a huge difference, and certainly, especially against those structures now with the recent changes. Manify already has one in tow, that's why he's critting for 900 on the Pyromancer. Ferrocreek has one in inventory. Sibi's got a 3K defense pot now. So there's plenty of damage, specifically Caspadify and Ferrocreek can insta-kill a Phoenix. They just have to actually focus it.
Fire Giant should be Optimus Gang. He's really without any trouble at this point, as the Poppies are going to fall back for their defense. But can you take us back to that Tier 2 Siege Poppies try real quick here? What goes so wrong there for them?
It's Sibi's delayed initiation and Johnny's really good pathing, and it was the lack of wards on that side of the map meant that Johnny had a really good option in. Worst Turtle was pretty late to that fight. It was a little bit harder for them to get it going. because Sibby immediately put Checky in half.
They're going to jump in right away in the mid Phoenix. Earth and Fury and Lord of the Afterlife have both been expended already. As Sibby gets plucked back, but Warchi's poked out low, and the mid Phoenix is already down. That means Poppies have to give up this position. Julio might have to give up his life, just barely makes it back to the fountain to heal up. Now it's only the Phoenix in duo lane that still remains.
Quickly should go down. Look at how much those autos are chunking. Now bombs are good, but Johnny just insta-killed Worst Turtle on the back.
Ends up just removing him from the game. Optimus Gang are poked out. They're about half HP across the board, but it's a 5v4. Warchi finds a good bomb stun, brings everyone low. Chekio goes up. He finds Caspanify, still has one more shot, and he puts that damage into Farrakrick. Now Optimus Gang have got to turn tail because Dazzling Offensive is on the way. Warchi gets Sibby, and they want Farrakrick too.
Farrakrick's going to get some good healing off, but Johnny gets crit right away, or not crit, just big damage out of Checky in general. Titan's down to about half HP, but Poppy's able to defend.
Chekio taking the fight up against Crucify, gives up the beads here to make sure that he can keep putting in damage. That means Johnny is going to be able to catch him without any relics and find an easy killing spree. In fact, he's going to head right towards the Titan room. Johnny is going to try and end the game. Warchi's right here, though, for the defense. Clears out the minions. The Titan will remain standing, and Farrakrick is somehow duking it out up against two.
Good Aegis right on time, and yeah, the Optimus Gang could just go right for the Titan. Johnny get a blink after Warchi. That water illusion, so clean. And Optimus Gang still looking for it, but there's still two tanks up, and Worst Turtle just respawn.
Julio is an execute threshold. There it is. The big ship comes out right at the end. Worst Turtle gets a double kill, taking down Crucify, but Johnny gonna re-engage, trying to DPS the tower, the Titan, and that's enough. Optimus Gang keep it going, undefeated against the Pop.
Took a long time. Warchi had a great game there to try and keep the Poppies up, but we finally got to set sail with Johnny.
Didn't we?
Right at the very end. The perfect timing to get that Alquag ultimate, and he ultimately ends the game by himself. And if they lose that fight, if Johnny gets decided, I don't think that Optimus Gang loses, but that game probably goes on for another 10 minutes.
Yeah, a lot could be taken on the back end of that. We saw a lot of the damage that was there and at the potential there for the Poppies. That certainly could have been a problem. But I mean, what a game from Optimus Gang. They almost let that one slip away from them, but they eventually managed to start breaking down the Phoenix. They get Warchi away from it for that fight. That makes the Phoenix Siege just that much easier.
Yeah, Caspanify played so much better in the late game as well. His positioning after the first few Phoenix Sieges got much better. Johnny played Alquag in the late game and did Johnny stuff with Alquag in the late game. So MVP votes, usually I would probably err on the side of Caspanify because he was so critical.
Yeah.
Sibby as well, I thought did a really great job. But when there's literally one person left on your team and they kill the Titan against two people, kind of tough to vote against that guy.
It's hard not to give it to him, but it's up to you in the end, Mixer Chat. Go ahead and vote for us. Again, we're doing the results of those MV polls a bit delayed today. We're going to cover all of those at the end of the day broadcast, but put those votes in now and make sure we get those tallied and go over them for you a little bit later. But, I mean, talk to me about Warchi's impact here in this game, man. In that late game on this Agni, he was instrumental for them.
He's the only reason it took us this long to get to the postgame. I mean, he really was huge in delaying that game. Delaying those Phoenix Sieges so well. It wasn't just the damage, but the CC that he was bringing on top of it. His positioning was solid. Warchi definitely looking a little bit more comfortable in the mid lane. Got a couple bones to pick about the build, but when it works out that well, I can't really criticize too much.
Optimus Gang come away with that victory and continue their very strong fall split. We'll see if they can keep that going. We'll see what else is up in store for you in the minor league. Quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to the SMITE Minor League. Finch and Aggro here as we go into the second half of the day. Going to be seeing Exordium go up against Milky Way here in just a moment. And this is a big day for Exordium. They got 2 sets to do here today to try and get through. At least those are on stream. Milky Way had 2 sets as well, but one of them already happened off broadcast. Yeah,
but they ended up beating Sacred Speed Buff, so they're already off to a pretty good start, and they're trying to continue that now up against Milky Way, or excuse me, Milky Way is looking to continue that up against Exordium.
Right.
Both these teams, like we talked about on the desk to start the day, have potential, but really need to find the team that wins this is going to set themselves up for much greater success down the line. The team that loses this really would need to make up a lot of ground to make it to the top half.
That's right. The sort of the big number that you want to try and be at is at number 3 compared to everyone else here, so you can try and make it into those final play-ins towards the group stages with the big boys and everyone else around HRX. So that's what everyone's trying to earn their way to right now, and that's why the fact that it really is so clumped down there. Almost everyone was 1 and 2 coming into this into today. That wasn't in Signum or Optimus Gang. So trying to create that separation here now in this set and in the sets to follow are going to be what's really important.
Yeah, we'll wait and see, but this game should be pretty close. I'm excited to see what we got in store. Is Serket banned right away. Serket is a god that always seems like pros are ready to pull her out at any given time and do very well. I think it's an excellent first ban sort of. This isn't the first pick that we want to go for, but we don't want you to have this either, and it leaves open something for us that we really do want.
Looks like Serket, and they're also going to ban the Baron. We haven't seen Baron and Naja be valued very much today, I feel like, much at all. So seeing Baron first banned here by Exordium, they at the very least don't want to have to go up against that one and don't want to first pick it for themselves. That does leave the likes of Freya, Naja, Athena, all out there to be grabbed, but Sobek going to come right on in for Exordium.
But Sobek, man.
He's
Sobek
so good, isn't he?
Over Freya, over Naja, over Athena, you called it. Now, the idea is that you're getting at least 2 on the back end, right? That you don't need to pick up one of those 4. If you value them all about the same, then you take the one that you really want, and then you're good after that. But no Freya pick from Milky Way. They go Soul Robin. So now Exordium have the option to go Freya Athena if they want to. Freya Naja would be not too bad, but Jingwei's open too, so we better get that one.
Yeah, make sure that no one takes that one away from you, the Jingwei. Go ahead and lock that in now. It is curious, right? If you want mage ranged auto attacks, right? You'd think Freya would be open, but I mean, Soul been getting highly valued here, at least in the SML so far. Yeah. Pairing that with the Rob.
Specifically in Europe as well, they seem to really like this Soul right now. And we saw Ferric play it last game, did pretty well with it. So, you know, it's worthwhile to pick it, but Freya's open. Like, I don't know.
Pretty good.
Freya's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that neither team wanted it in 6 picks.
Jingwei and Erlong Shin getting valued over, and I can sign up for this Sobek Erlong Shin over. These 2 picks are very strong right now. I'm a huge fan of Erlong Shin at this point. I know you've been kind of singing his praises. Maybe not his praises. He's been the ire of your existence, I'd say, but definitely
he's
talk about how good he is.
He's a juggler. I can't like him. Like, that's the way it works.
Right, I mean, I can't give him any respect, but you know he's all right.
Like, Robin's been in my sights for over a year now. When do I not have to worry about that character anymore, man? Come on.
Well, Agni and Freya do get banned away, as well as the Amir and the Ardio, so a bit of an eye towards some magic damage dealers, just Guardians and Mages this time, and that's good recognition. But if you're going to ban the Amir Ardio, there's a pretty good Guardian that's still open, and it's Athena.
Seems like the prioritization is getting a little wonky these days in the minor league, man. I mean, Athena makes it all the way past. Ardio is it would have been a pretty decent pick against 3 gods that have some mobility options, but still, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
It is weird, isn't it? I mean, I think I like the Ardio ban. It's the Amir ban that I'm not 100% sold on, if I'm being honest. But Terra makes it through as well, along with the Thoth. And Thoth has kind of been able to squeeze through now that more mages are getting an eye turn them. I love this Agni ban, right? We just saw how strong that was for Warchi in terms of stalling that game out. So now they come down to this Thoth. You still have a strong pick, and you're able to ban away some good.
Yeah, I like the Thoth here. You've got such a good setup that it works anyways. That we saw Death Panther do it pretty well in our first set of the day. I love this Fafnir pick. I mean, it's so good with Soul Ram. You put Athena in the Soul
Even with
lane.
2 Guardian bans, 2 very good ones make it through.
This is really, really good drafting from Milky Way. I really like their draft quite a bit.
It's going to be very strong pairing that Rom Soul up with that Fafnir and the Robin. I feel like to get them through that early game so well. This is a very good draft from them, and I'm excited to see it in action. Let's go ahead and hop right in. Exordium going to be going up against Milky Way. We'll see who comes out the victor here. Hunter's Blessing for both of them as well. These are definitely some auto attackers that Exordium got to worry about.
Again, I think that the switch up here of getting Fafnir last with 2 auto attack centric characters just gives you such great siege potential. It gives you such great objective burn. Exordium's team composition is less about burning down objectives and more about team fighting you very well. But if Milky Way can call targets properly, they are lacking a little bit of AoE, though Soul certainly does bring enough that you have to respect it. I really feel like this idea for Exordium is just to out-team fight Milky Way.
I think that's going to be the call, and I got my attention on these 2 solo laners who are the solo laners of superfluous consonants. Unnecessary, some of them I feel like in those names, but we love them all the same. The Athena going over to the solo lane, and then Kha'Zix on this Sobek. Sometimes when we see Exordium do well, Kha'Zix really can feel like the engine for that.
Yep.
Sixer the same way for Milky Way too, can be very strong for it, but really Marcus, I think, kind of steps a little bit out in front for me on that one. So I want to see what these 2 are going to be able to do. How is this Athena Sobek going to go through?
It's basically pretty similar to what we've seen in the past of Guardians and the solo lane.
Well, the lane matchup maybe not as
Sure.
much so, but like once they start.
Yeah, once they start joining these fights, Sixer is more about getting multiple members and less so frontliners trying to get towards the back line and help out. As Mark is going to blink in onto Alka, and Erlong Chen falls for first blood. Lucas with great pressure, and Angry Day needs to be careful here. 2 or 3 more autos may have done the deed, but already a great start for the Soul in the mid lane.
And Alka has gone with that blink again. We're not saying that it's wrong. We're just saying that when that is the choice, you just have to be a little bit more extra mindful about even the smallest forms of CC. And Marcus comes in with the blink, and then, you know, the root right there to try and lock you down. I mean, you don't have as many options to get out of there, and Alka ends up getting punished.
There's also a great body block from Marcus to ensure that. I don't know if Alka had access to his 72 transformations. I don't know what he picked up. It's sitting at level 2. Could have just been pin and in that first ability, the spot weakness, in order to get his extra clear going, but not deterred, he comes over to do it.
That's a good idea here. The stun not going to land, but he gets the knockup anyway. Shell comes out, so Boss will be able to make that roll to get right out of there, and just like that, Milky Way, with really only expending the Shell, are able to avoid the gank.
Alka doesn't even pick up his boots quite yet. Now he has enough gold to get boots 1, but this is a rough start for the Erlong Shen to not only die, but then come over to duo, get basically no farm from the time he respawns until he backs to base again. He got half a wave over on the duo side that was triple split. Now he'll get his own speed and his XP harpies. That'll take him over to level 3, but Marcus should be comfortably level 4 after getting his speed, XPs, a wave in mid. Now can head over to blue buff. I mean, Marcus has a significant XP advantage.
And this is really what I feel like what Milky Way are going to want to do with this draft. Not just be aggressive because they've got this Raven and the Soul together who can, you know, be impactful with their auto attacks a little bit earlier than other mages. And Marcus obviously is on the Raven. But even once Sixer's level 5, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Defender of Olympus starts coming on too, who along with Marcus's initiations. This sort of early to mid game, Milky Way I feel like are going to have a ton of pressure.
Without a doubt. They've just got so much single target damage, but enough AoE to kind of make it work. But in their mid game, as you mentioned, is so good because of that Athena ultimate, right? Like whenever they get that option to get someone in trouble, or they have someone locked down and that Robin gets to stick to you and then Sixer gets to ult on top of him, that's just guaranteed damage more often than not. And Milky Way certainly look like a team that are going to be able to pressure out in the mid game, but Exordium's team fight in the mid game can be very good, but Alka cannot afford to be super far behind on this Erlong Shen. It's one of the few weaknesses of this pick. If it falls behind, the damage really falls off, but the CC will always be there.
He'll definitely still be able to have that impact in this team fights. As we're back to the 2v2 over here on the duo lane side of things. Looks like the upgraded shell has come out from Popular right out the gate for him, which I kind of like going into this auto attack centric, you know, build that they've got. But it also just helps you out here in lane as well. There was a while where we saw a ton of the upgraded relics, and it kind of dropped off a bit, and then we're back to itself.
That's how it always goes. There's the ebb and flow of the fickle nature of a lot of pro and semi-pro players at the minor league level and the SPL level. It's they change their mind as quickly as the weather changes.
Popular is going to go back to base. Boss will find that kill. The second one now for Milky Way. Boss in a little bit of trouble as Kinchix looks like he wants to trade. He will jump away, but it's all a bait as Alka comes in with the blink, takes down Boss, and now they can turn around onto Shoxy Foxy, who is a name that is absurdly fun to say.
No shell used by Popular, even though he'd spent 500 gold to make it even better. Decided wasn't going to help him too much, as ultimate used by Sixer feels a bit strange because there was no kill potential there. Angry Day was positioned far enough away, but it was just basically like using a teleport for him that put him in position to help out on that blue buff invade. Kha'Zix hasn't gotten one in a little bit, it feels like. Alka was there on the last one, but this could be the start of him not getting a couple in a row.
Stop us. Lucas takes a lot of poke from Angry Day in this jungle corridor. Looks like he's poking his head in on the red buff, and unfortunately for him, 3 members of Exordium were there lying in wait, so he had to give up on that one. It looked like Sixer successfully took that blue buff away, but didn't actually get a chance to pick it up. I guess he had to move back into the lane a little bit too fast. But yeah, continuing to cause some problems for Kha'Zix over there in solo.
Popular still only level 4, and Shoxy Foxy now. Wow, you're right, that is pretty fun.
Isn't it absurdly fun to say?
Level 6 already, and Fafnir is a character that can actually benefit from being ahead in the support role.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you aren't looking for your support to get the extra lead, but Fafnir does enough damage on his own, especially in that Draconic Corruption form, that you kind of make it work with having a small XP lead, can really put extra pressure onto characters like Thoth and chase him pretty easily.
Shoxy's going to back and finish up that build, making sure to stay foxy. Finishes off those boots and wants to head back into the lane. So far, though, we've seen a couple of engagement for the most part. Again, it's still been a little bit calm in these. Sometimes in the minor league, we see these games be just slugfest back and forth, just constantly trading blows, but these teams have been a little bit more patient with their engagements, where they take them. Alka has managed to catch back up, even though he kind of started off a little bit slow. He's not too far behind Marcus now, at least in terms of experience in that department. We saw a gank attempt from him earlier, didn't quite work. So some of the pace is just, can this Erlong continue to find these ganks, and they haven't all 100% hit from Alka.
Alka decided to go for the tank boots in the jungle, really worried about the overall damage of Milky Way. That
Interesting.
crowd control reduction also good against Athena and Fafnir, but seems a little bit like you're trying to be too you're too vanilla with the build. You're trying to do everything a little bit too much. You just got to commit to damage, I think, in the jungle. Or at least do the first 2 items, go Boots, Berserker, Shield, and then pick up whatever defense item you want. Pick up Magi's, get a Spirit Robe. Third, but at least keep your early game where you're supposed to be strong.
Marcus blinks in onto Angry Day, that will force out Evade and Punish. Dragonic Corruption comes out as well as Supernova to force the mage away, but Alka right here waiting is going to have the taunt available, and Lucas gets low, but Boss is putting out plenty of shots of his own. Ken 6 now with Popular, going to force out Marcus and Boss on the left-hand side. Milky Way managed to keep everybody alive and safely disengage.
Seems pretty crazy that they keep everyone alive, considering that was a 5-on-4, but good defense by Exordium to keep everyone up and standing. Didn't get the red, but 5 people there to confirm it means that the farm really didn't do that much for Milky Way. They had to split it so many different ways. Good ultimate from Sixer. Like you said, the mid game for Milky Way is so good because they have a solo laner who can instantly join these fights, and not just by way of a teleport, but by actually giving it someone damage mitigation and some serious damage on the way down.
Yeah, that's what we saw happen there in that fight. It was a bit of an interesting way to start for it. Marcus kind of blinks in on Angry Day, and Angry Day becomes a bit of a focal point. They force him out, but they commit a lot onto him, and they can't quite secure him. Draconic Corruption comes out too, but Shoxy Foxy can't quite find enough on the back end of that, and Exordium are able to at least make it back out of there with their lives. But that's where the pace I was talking about, right? It's not that they're not fighting, it's that it's these deliberate fights they're taking around certain objectives. Lucas has poked his head in on red buff before. This time, Milky Way bring everybody and try and strip it away. And
the more Milky Way can take these engagements that aren't full 5-on-5s or really even 4-on-4s, because the CC for Exordium and the AoE that they have is so strong that you really don't want to take 4-on-4s as much against this team. If they can find 3-on-3s, anything that doesn't have Popular involved, because Earth and Fury is such a good team fight ultimate, that's where Milky Way will find a little bit more success.
Popular might get caught out here. Taunt's going to interrupt the dash. Earth and Fury expended in a futile effort. Sixer gets the kill, and Milky Way now at 3-1, and ready to start turning towards the Gold Fury, since one of the best team fighters on Exordium's not even here.
Lucas putting great damage on a Ken 6, nearly gets him killed. His ultimate charge by Angry Day does poke down Lucas pretty heavily. Alka looking to chase him down and has that blink, but still pretty separated.
Alka in trouble. Boss right there with the last auto to get that kill. It's a 5 up against 4 as Popular has respawned and is going to be back here in time for the fight. Gold Fury being looked at again, but Kin6 is able to back it fully healthy and fly back in with that rapid reincarnation, so it's still not fully in Milky Way's favor, but they've got Kha'Zix left.
Kha'Zix bought a lot of time. Snipe from Boss shouldn't be enough, but Marcus able to find the solo kill onto Angry Day. That was through the Thoth Aegis in the mid lane. Shifter shield pickup for Marcus means he does a lot of damage when above 50% HP. Now, Exordium is able to defend the Gold Fury, but Milky Way was kind of just forcing the fight. If they got gold, so be it, but I think they wanted to fight more than anything else, and that was the reason why. Their team fight at this point is able to handle the damage that Exordium has and not worry quite as much about their CC.
It really does end up being a 3-for-0 in their favor. Angry Day just respawned. Popular was the first casualty, and Alka ended up taking a spill in that one as well. Kin6 narrowly avoided a similar fate by just barely airstriking over the wall. And you're right, even though they don't get gold for you, look at these charts. 2,700 gold out in the front, 2,700 experience. It's not been a big spike down. It has just been a steady strip away from Milky Way so far this game.
And look at the mid jungle in particular. 2 levels for both Marcus and Lucas over their opposition. So that is definitely a big boost for them.
Pyromancer being considered, and now that means they're going to get a 2-man taunt set up. Sixer, though, doesn't want to commit anything else on the back of it. He wants to come up, join with Marcus, and make sure Popular can't find any more. I don't know. I mean, this Athena solo with the Void Stone, I thought maybe going with the Shield Crash, maybe just didn't happen.
This is a better idea, though, to just pull them off of it and look to team fight now while you know the Aegis is down for Angry Day.
Right.
Alka still isn't really doing a whole lot of damage, and why not? Go back to this Gold Fury. This time you can get it or take another fight.
Kin6 is going to wrap around the back, has Airstrike available. Sixer controls 2 on the front side. Milky Way do get the Gold Fury, and Supernova teams up with Sixer to take down Angry Day. Alka in some trouble and will retreat. Sixer just going to make sure Lucas doesn't have any trouble, but Kin6 is going to have a ton of it as Marcus commits for it.
Ooh, Mystic Rush just can't match that same distance of Airstrike, so Marcus is not able to get that kill. But Kha'Zix in the mid lane brought very low, stun a bit off from Shoxy Foxy, as that Monolith heal actually enough to save Kha'Zix's life from the Fafnir breath.
I think Shoxy was too matter-of-fact about that. I don't think he recognized just the whole team that they needed to keep committing. Popular does get taunted back in, Hammer's done there, and they will find the kill and the tier 1. And that puts down Popular.
I've seen that before, where Popular gets taunted, and then hammered, and then Stellar bursted, and he ults right before he dies. I've definitely watched that movie.
Angry Day will commit the final judgment to bring down Lucas. Alka is right here to potentially punish, pin off the mark, Shell to keep everyone healthy, and Alka gives his life away on the back end. Tier 2 tower and the fight all going the way of Milky Way.
Man, this is the issue whenever you get a team composition like this, if you're dealing with it as Exordium. If they get a slight lead, if they get a little bit of a moment of pressure between Fafnir, Sol, and Rom, your towers just won't stand. And that just gets them so far ahead in global gold for the entire team that it's so difficult to handle. Sixers played so well on this Athena solo, has been such a great setup man for Milky Way's success. And Marcus has done his job as the Robin, taking Thoth out of these fights pretty easily, or Kin6 out of these fights pretty easily. That Milky Way just really running this pretty well.
And I'm so glad that we're getting to see Milky Way play here and play well. They already won their set earlier today, and this set by far is not over yet, but they're looking good in it. And I think that's something they can at the very least build on, is how well they played this early game. Because sitting 0-3 for a while, people can start to develop thoughts about you, but they had a real tough schedule. They didn't have a chance to show what they can do. Now they're getting a chance to show that they can compete with everyone else here in the minor league.
I mean, Lucas looked really good during the summer split. I really liked a lot of the things he was doing in the mid lane. Boss has been around for a long time.
Yep.
Marcus looked pretty good at times during the summer split. This is definitely a talented team.
Taunt is going to pull back in too. Hammer stun onto Popular, and Earth and Fury at the last moment. Alka is in some trouble now. Final Judgment does hit 2, but a double kill for Lucas on the mid lane. Soul 3-0-4. Milky Way are starting to run away with this one.
It's all Sixer, man. I mean, it is just all this Athena solo. Exordium just doesn't have an answer to it. Because usually against Athena, if you beads the initiation, you can kill her because she's lower level than you. Not really the case when it's a big solo win.
Marcus doesn't land the Mystic Rush, but no Mystic Rush, no problem. As now Defender of Olympus is here. Marcus gonna keep up the chase, and Sixer gets the hit. Angry Day goes down as well.
His auto attack, his kill. That's how that one goes. Fire Giant didn't go down. Pyromancer did, so at least there's something Exordium has to smile about, but they're gonna lose more global gold. These towers are not gonna stand long.
Kha'Zix uses the charge prey, but it lands on Marcus. and now he's absolutely in the wrong part of town. It is not the time to go for a swim, buddy. Kozik's gonna have to find a way out, but the two-man taunt from Sixer locks them both down. Popular is gonna fall first. Marcus might die to that tower shot, barely survives. Kozik's will make his way out, but up into the sky is Boss to try and finish the job.
And he got him. Alka here underneath this tier 2, doing his best. Shoxy Foxy with another great hammer. Boss notches himself a double.
Yeah, at this point, it's just lambs to the slaughter as Ken6 does at least find Shoxy Foxy a little bit too far forward after setting up the stun underneath the tower. Milky Way are on a bit of a roll right now, but they got to pull up just a bit and make sure that they're grouping up and getting the objectives the right way. They didn't get Fire Giant. They were trying to force down that tier 2, couldn't find it there, and Exordium do make some defense.
That's really the first poor decision we've seen around an objective for Milky Way yet today, though. I mean,
and just barely.
Barely,
yeah.
right. The frontliners kind of suicide there for Exordium in the name of getting Milky Way off of the tier 2, and it's not a bad idea. I mean, getting kills and sending you further behind is a great way for them to win, but to get another, couple hundred gold across the team, the 1,500, 300 per player, that's another way to lose the game. It's to the point where Exordium needs to just play with some desperation. Right. This game is getting dangerously close to being too far gone.
It's definitely out of hand for them. And this Milky Way composition, it feels like it really is just hitting its stride. I mean, look at Popular. He's level 9. He's going up against level 15s across the board on the other side. I mean, there's just no way for this Terra with essentially just Lotus Crown, to be tanky enough, and he's repeatedly getting punished.
Very much so. He's got to stop backpedaling in the face of Sixer, and Sixer has just really focused him out, and why wouldn't he? Because one hammer stun off of an Athena taunt is enough to bring down a low enough level support, and Popular certainly fits that.
Exordium are going to be here for the defense on the left-hand side, though. They teleport to the Tier 1 tower and force everyone else back. They want Gold Fury in the back end of this. Ken6 and Kozix are here, but I think it might be ill-advised to walk in here. Gold Fury goes the way of Milky Way.
Exordium cannot contest that.
No.
No way. It's not even worth them trying to contest that, as Six are going to split push down on his right-hand side. He won't be able to get this tier 2 with him by himself. He beat a minion wave, and Alka here to defend it. Block stacks are pretty good, by the way.
What? Poor Alka, man. What a rough game he's had so far. Has that Berserker shield, stone cutting. Kind of just feels like he's not been able to do much anything, huh? At least not up against this Athena. Sixer's presence has really been, like you said, one of the big difference makers here. But it's so hard to highlight anyone. Yes, a lot of the kills are going the way of Lucas and Boss, but Sixer and Shoxy have been doing such a good job chaining their CC together perfectly to facilitate for the rest of the team. Marcus has been zoning a lot of the times, making sure that the fight's in favor of Milky Way and keeping other members busy. The team is playing so well as a unit right now.
And this itemization is perfect. I love the horrific emblem from Sixer just to keep fights going their way, especially with the lack of sprint on the other side from Exordium. They've got no way to cleanse that horrific emblem. I love this Shogun's Kasari out of Shoxy Foxy to up this attack speed even more without the need for Coerce. This Milky Way's played well as a unit. They've built well and set themselves up for easy success.
Tier 2 tower, give it another try on the right-hand side as Ken6 and Popular have realized that they just need some farm, man. Popular splitting this up with Ken6 to try and get back to relevant. They'll get their own Tier 2 tower for some global gold. They're not even going to go for the tower, though. Milky Way wants this mid-Phoenix. And they haven't been able to get any damage on it just yet. Angry Day forcing them back as this, though.
Ken6 and Popular are both backed. So Exordium feel that they can defend this Phoenix. And when the face of all 5, Milky Way decide they'll take the easier farm, which is this Tier 2 on the right-hand side.
And that was them trying to force the hand of Exordium, I think, because I think Popular and Ken6 would have been willing to just trade there and try and keep going for that Phoenix. So they go, no, we're going to rush it, get back here and defend. It works out for them. Now Milky Way can have this more honest 5v5 as Marcus keeps the waves pushed up in mid and the rest of Milky Way pushed down right.
That'll bring Alka over towards mid. A 5-level difference, by the way, between these two junglers. And so Marcus really has no need to be scared of this Erlong Shen. And not really focusing on the Phoenix quite yet. A little bit of a BM back.
Absolutely.
Love it.
That is classic as the stun does land on the Shoxy Foxy, but he can shrug those off and sustain up just fine. Despite all the time committed here for Milky Way, they have not been able to really find a way into the Phoenix. Both can be difficult to siege into, and so far Exordium are not making it easy.
Won't take long for Milky Way if they do get into this Phoenix, though, to start getting it in their way, especially with that frenzy pickup by Shoxy.
Popular gets taunted, and he does get Earth and Fury off before he meets his Maker, as Lucas gets the credit. Marcus is the one that gets hit by Charge Spray, but Phoenix is already down. Angry Day will lose his life as well, as Ken6 has to ult just for the retreat.
Alka very low. Defender of Olympus coming through. Ken6 able to dash out of the way just in time, but Milky Way looks a little bit split here. Maybe going for Titan, but seems a bit ambitious.
They are indeed going to follow Sixer's lead and head back towards this mid Phoenix. They've got Lucas and Boss putting in the damage. It is going to be Shox that's thrown back, but he blows up Kha'Zix. He'll end up getting his life traded out, but now Alka will fall as well. Popular and Ken6, the duo lane, the only two standing, but Milky Way a little bit too low. Marcus and Sixer both very unhealthy, and they've got a lead.
Boss really wants this Phoenix, and can't really blame him, but Angry Day is coming up, and he's got ultimate. Good knock up. Lucas is trying to get some last-minute pot shots in, and he does. Boss gets stunned, but still has roll to get out of range. Ken6 might be able to keep this chase going, but I don't know that they really want to. That Fire Giant regen will, during this chase, get Milky Way healthy enough that they could easily turn it around.
And that ends up being very clean for Milky Way, Ryan. Once they do make it in to that right side, Phoenix able to find a couple kills, really only giving up Shoxy Foxy. Right side and mid side, Phoenix both come down. A successful Fire Giant push for them. And it really does feel like Popular still just isn't tanky enough. He gets kind of caught on the right-hand side. They blow him up immediately. He at least gets off Earth and Fury as sort of his last Aurora on his way to the grave, but he's too easy a pick target for them.
Especially with that upgraded Frenzy for Shoxy Foxy. I mean, it's attack speed and pen, and he used it right off the stun. It's perfect. It meant that the Phoenix was going to die instantly. It meant that Popular was going to die instantly, and there's just no way he can be tanky enough in order to really withstand that at this point in the game.
Looks like even with the Fire Giant buff dropping in a few seconds, Milky Way at least want to grab the tier 2 on the left-hand side. Right now, they can see Alka and Kha'Zix just pushing up the minions on the right-hand side. They don't have to worry about those two. It's tier 2 and left is a foregone conclusion for them. They'll grab it. The question is, even without the buff, do they want to keep going for the siege on the left-hand side with these fire minions pouring in?
I think you do. You want to keep pressure on with fire minions coming, and even with the Emperor's armor from Popular, which is a good pickup for him here, and now he finally has a sprint to counteract that horrific emblem. Milky Way can just stand around and watch you, because eventually, like Alka has to do, you have to go and defend, and it'll only take it might take a couple waves of Boss and Lucas going in and auto attack here and auto attack there, but you can poke out that Phoenix if you want to make it a more extended engagement.
Speed buff will be stripped away, farm as well. Looks like Milky Way may have decided to give up on it. They have enough time to get the Fire Giant and still have fire minions pouring in if they come right back here to it afterwards and not give these Phoenixes a chance to get back up. But even if they do come back, they won't be very healthy. So Milky Way at this point really do have firm control. I mean, and they've had it all game, haven't they? It really has felt like they did such a good job of translating their early pressure throughout the entirety of the game so far.
They've played almost flawlessly. I mean, only 3 deaths so far, 2 of them on a Shoxy Foxy, which is the one you want to take those deaths for you.
Right.
If someone has to take a death, is Ken6 might not be in the right part of town. It stops a couple backs, but loses his ultimate.
Popular also wants to stop some backs, just being a nuisance at this point. And that might slow off the timing. I did talk about how you want to get to this Fire Giant and right back to the siege as soon as possible. And they're buying time for the Phoenixes to get back up and to push out waves. That's all very true. They just had to make sure they don't give up any lives or any important cooldowns on the back end, as now Ken6 is this far forward without even an ultimate. But Sixer just going to back.
Sixer is under no real pressure whatsoever.
No, I was saying he might still have a chance to harm Ken6.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got so much protection. Now, Ken6 is level 20. So he does some good stuff right now. He's done a good job of focusing on getting this farm where he can to stay relevant in the late game, and it's been a solid effort from him, but it's still a 6, 0, and 8 Athena that is fully slotted in the item department.
Fire Giant should be very easy for Milky Way to grab here. Right side Phoenix did respawn during that little bit of time, but the minions are still relatively pushed up right around that speed buff line is where they already are if you draw that horizontal line across the map. So they can push that up relatively easily. They're going to let Marcus go down and grab the mini wave in left side so that once they rotate over, those minions will already be there.
Marcus is awfully far, though. I'm surprised this isn't Sixer split pushing on that left side, because he can join this fight so quickly, and I think that's going to get Exordium's mid Phoenix up without a whole lot of pressure either. Now, Marcus will be here after not this wave, but the next one, and he'll be right on top of the Phoenix, but still, it's a bit of an odd decision to let the Robin clear that instead of just letting Sixer deal with it.
And he's really not that worried about queuing up the clear. He's kind of run past the waves and instead trying to just group up with the team. But these Phoenixes, even though they are back up, they are weakened down below half HP, and that much easier for Milky Way to try and take down. Marcus is floating in between. It looks like that's recognition from Exordium, but they got to keep their eye on the Robin as well.
Now, again,
he just
with
blinked
Frenzy, Marcus, blinked in towards mid. He should be able to get that Phoenix. Is on this right-hand side, taunt onto Sixer. Nice final judgment from Angry Day. Hits both carries.
And that does bring Boss low. Boss is going to go back and try and lifesteal in the jungle. Meanwhile, Lucas can just heal up thanks to his kit, but Marcus is just going to keep pushing down mid. Alka can't stand to him even at this point in the game. Marcus forces down that mid Phoenix and out-trades Alka.
Did cost both of the junglers their ultimates, but certainly a win for Milky Way, as now Marcus has a really nice pathing in towards his right Phoenix.
Tash in, taunt comes out from Sixer, Pop lures the target one more time. Earth and Fury will come out. It will hit everyone but Shoxy Foxy, immediately eradicates him. Right side Phoenix goes down as well. Supernova is hitting just about everyone. Stun lands for the connection, and now it's Angry Day who's too far forward. Lucas on a rampage finds that kill. Alka makes it back to base, but Kha'Zix doesn't. He gets deleted by Lucas. They turn to the Titan. Milky Way gonna take the set.
Milky Way, you called in the beginning of the day, Finch. They didn't look great by their record alone, but they get 2 wins today. One offline, one online, and the one that we saw right now up against Exordium, that was an impressive display. This looks like a team that can really compete.
Yeah, I was absolutely trying to, make sure we gave them that team, the benefit of the doubt, and they've earned it here in this matchup. Now they should be at 2-3, I believe, overall.
Yep.
And with a much better standing, and it was already rather clumped around that 1-2 mark. This is a chance for them to try, if no one else can find some victories, to try and get to that 3rd spot, be right there with Optimus Gain and Insignia.
It's just important that the only losses they get from here on out, they can really only afford to lose to Insignium and Optimus Gang.
Right.
And even at that point, they probably need to try and take a game off of at least one of those teams. And if they do, they'd put themselves in a great position overall. But Milky Way, if they stay focused, keep the practice up, they should put themselves in a good spot. I think they're that talented.
Well, go ahead and show us who your MVP was for that game. Vote for us in the poll now, and we'll have those results for you later on in the day. But it really was an impressive performance. It started early and often. I really liked Sixer's impact in that game when the Athena, his taunts were such a nuisance. Marcus did a great job in the early game, exactly kind of like how you draw it up on paper, connecting them to that mid game.
I think it's far and away Sixer for MVP for me. I mean, he's the one who was really unanswerable for the majority of the game for Exordium. Even in the late game, the taunts on to Popular really continued to be fatal even until the final moments.
And Alka had a rough time in that game. Remember, that's how the game starts, is with Lucas and Marcus being able to find that pick on him in the middle lane, and he never, I felt like, regaining jungle pressure back even after that moment. So unfortunately, the game never really was in their way. It ends up being a strong one for Milky Way, and they're going to try and keep that going. But we still have one more set, still have some more SML action for you, so we're going to get everything ready for that one, and we will be right back.
Don't quit, I fell for you. Don't break it in two. Long time before I knew us two would follow through. Hold out, don't give it up. Good things can come to those who wait. 'Cause you make me feel like this is for real, and I want you till dreams grow on the moon. If you're a falling star, I wanna fall with you. I want you till it falls out the sun. It's standing up for you. It's standing up for you. It's standing up. It's standing up for you. Standing up. Standing up for you. Break down when we're apart. Too far, I'm in the dark. Now don't fold my foolish heart, and don't wait for magic sparks. Make it work, although we get stuck on the low. Breathe out, we can't forget. Hurts like a bayonet. Could you make me feel we're in this for real? And I want
Welcome back to the SMITE Minor League. Only one more set to go today. Myself and Taco will be bringing you the last one of the day. It's the Poppies up against Exordium.
And the Poppies, I mean, they've had a pretty tough task already up here today, but now going into this back-to-back doubleheader, it'd be really interesting to see if they can come out on top.
Yeah, these picks and bans is always where the interest will be between these two teams as well, because realistically, you get an idea, the flavor of what the composition is going to do, and, well, we'll see how the execution works out once we get in the game.
And as for the Poppies as well, I think that the standings currently are a little bit deceiving as to how this team has actually been performing. I feel like we have seen some really promising moments from the Poppies and that they still have plenty of potential to work their way right up there into the top 3.
Yeah, here's a little look at the standings so far then with one more game to play today. At the moment, Poppies in 5th place, as Saka was saying, a little bit to be expected, but we'll see if they can beat Exordium here, who they're currently level pegging with. Whoever wins this one, obviously, catapults themselves up to Milky Way.
And being
It's a
tied to
space.
3rd, it's something. It's a start, and that is the best part about it all. But the Poppies, of course, Exordium, they know that they're in the both exact same boat, so Poppies can't take it easy because Exordium's still gunning for them also.
Yeah, and that's all they've got for Europe now is just the Poppies versus Exordium. Tomorrow will be all about North American SML. But this one's going to be exciting because I'm excited to see what happens if Poppies make some adjustments based off what happened last game and if they were happy with how things went.
And I think that as far as the picks and bans are concerned, we're definitely going to see a lot of pressure picks being pulled away. We've already been noticing a decent amount of Freya Chernobog bans. I'd imagine that to kind of stay the same. I have been enjoying Warchi, though, on this Agni gameplay. I like the aggressive pick
you
for
like
the
him in mid?
Poppies. I think it's better.
Did you like him in the mid
honestly
lane?
think
Yeah.
Warchi is better in the mid lane. He's always felt a little bit more like the mage player as opposed to the hunter. He did fine in hunter as well.
Well,
but
he's been a carry player. I mean, Solo, once upon a time, he used to be in the solo lane, but then Solo had a little bit more, well, action in it, so to speak, and I think that's when Warchi was there. Then he moved to the hunter position, now towards mid. He's nearly completed the whole set now.
he's trying to be the multi-role genius.
He's getting there. He's getting there. Artemis and Raven will be the bans. Interesting by the Raven ban. And the Chernobog taken away by Exordium. Obviously, you know, first pick gets a throwaway ban or two. They've left a lot of things open here, though, with the Artemis and the Raven bans.
Baron is still on the table, as well as Athena, and those have been two heavily contested picks for quite some time. But it's going to be the Agni first and foremost here for Warchi,
It's
wanting to
good.
solidify his pick early on.
I mean, it's good, but, like, Warchi's always picking Agni at the moment. That's my only concern. It's like...
He likes it, and it works for me. I am perfectly fine with Warchi taking this pick first because he usually has his best performances on the Agni. I think that the guy just provides the right amount of pressure for the Poppies that Warchi can choose whether he wants to move forward or maybe stay a little bit pushed back.
Does it not worry you, though, that if Poppies are first picking an Agni, they're a little bit worried that if Warchi doesn't get Agni, he's not going to have a harder time of things?
I don't think so. I think it's just if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind
That's
of
fair.
situation here for Warchi. He probably is able, or not probably, but he's definitely capable of playing other gods in the mid lane role. It's just that I think that the space control that an Agni can provide and the objective play is the big thing that Poppies have seemed to really be focusing a little bit more on in this fall split. So I like that they're prioritizing the objective play as opposed to just looking for kills.
Circuit, Jingwei, Discordia for Exordium then so far. And Amaterasu and Ratatoska locked in now. Amma can go solo or into the support role scene a lot of the time. Doesn't really expect to see Rat anywhere but the jungle. Obviously he can solo, but I think jungle this game.
I think Ratatosker in the jungle would probably be best just because Rat, with that through the Cosmos, maybe has a chance to catch Jingwei off guard over there in dual lane. She's a pretty tricky one to try and get successful ganks off onto. She has so much survivability. Arguably the same for Discordia as well with her escape. It's just kind of complicated right now trying to handle the mobility from Exordium, so I think the Poppies are just trying to match that.
You may take it away, which I don't mind from the Poppies here, because these walls will cause a couple of problems for Amaterasu, Agni, and Ratatoska, because, well, they don't have that leap mobility. You know, they're going to have to use the dashes to get in and out, and those walls can limit that. Sylvanas too. Geb is available here, and we don't see too much of it just lately, but Geb's a really strong pick against Agni, just to prevent some of the A, the damage, and B, the CC contain. But Cumber, another good selection.
Take a look, though, at Exordium's 3rd and 4th pick ban choices. I mean, on her, Rom, Chernobog, Freya, very clear that Exordium are a little concerned about what's happening over there in the Poppies duo lane. And Poppies are still holding on to their hunter pick up until the 4th and 5th selection. I like the Sobek. I think that that is just the right amount of frontline and peel. In case that is Sobek in the support role, there is a chance that it might be a Materasu support, Sobek over in solo. We've been seeing so much Sobek solo this season that I would imagine that the Poppies have definitely understood how interchangeable those two gods are.
I think that's why Exodium on their last pick now, they're like, well, what do? We could end up being against Amaterasu or Sobek. And I think Poppies just get to choose here whichever matchup they feel better in this scenario. Put Amaterasu in the solo lane if they want to. If they're going to get free farm, which isn't going to be the case, it's going to be Baron there now. So tells me a lot that Ama's in the support role.
I would rather see Amaterasu in the support role here for the Poppies. I think that Sobek's going to have a significantly easier time trying to deal with the Baron's poke and push out of that early laning phase, as well as just the fact that Sobek will be a heck of a lot harder for Serket to try and punish.
Well, as we get into game now, let's see how this one begins between the Poppies and Exodium 2. Going to be excited to get into this one, and straight away Poppies are going to go for a cheeky old flank around the back, looking for a pick. But Discordia has spotted them out, so Angry Day in that mid lane will give vision for his team and let them know so everyone backs away. But look at how many wards were placed, Taco. Jeez.
Exordium even warding their own red buff, trying to make sure that the Poppies aren't looking to just start off on it right away. And it is, in fact, going to be the Amaterasu. Draco Marino piloting it as well. Smart decision-making, I think, from the Poppies. Not to mention that Amma benefits Medusa pretty heavily because of Medusa's strafing passive already.
So she's already got that extra mobility, and now the speed that you're going to get from Draco Marino's Amaterasu, that's going to add on top as well. Checking with the builds, and it's Guardian's Blessings for the solo laners and for the supports as always. Mid lane, though, Warchi going for the Mage's Blessing, which we don't see so much of these days. Instead, it's generally Book of Toth rushes or, well, Boots rushes as well.
The Bancroft's rush is probably the most notable one on the Agni. A lot of Agni players just like the pressure and damage that it can bring super early on, but Warchi seems to not have too many woes with clearing out this mid lane. However, Draco Marino is now looking on the aggressive here for Popular, trying to pull that Kumba passive early on.
They're a little bit split on damage there, though. Checkio, I don't think he could get in range for Popular. So what he ended up doing was just attacking Kench instead, and it didn't work out as well for him. So it was good pressure, but it did get the Shell for a sprint. Shell's ever so slightly going to be on a little bit longer of a cooldown, but that pressure in the dual lane already. Nice for the Poppies. They could look for the purple potentially after the next wave if they choose, but instead it might be just a safe option.
This is trouble for the Poppies, however, because now Exordium is going to take this opportunity to look for their red buff invade. Draco Marino and Checkio are trying to come in to help out, but Worst Turtle is going to end up losing his purification beads instead. Alco, however, has no ambush to run away.
Good Aegis from Angry Day, but I don't know if he's going to get away. Maybe he will, thanks to the purple carpet. Not to be. One kill for Checkio, one for Marino. That's what happens when the dual lane rotates, and you don't realize it until it's too late.
It seemed like it was going to be a power moment for Exordium, that they were just going to get out scot-free there, but the Poppies' rotation out of duo ends up saving the day, despite Draco Marino and Checkio having only been level 1. They were not concerned, still chose to challenge Exordium because there's power in numbers.
And now because of that, you can see level 3 for Warchi in the mid lane as well. Red buff stolen away from Exordium's side of the map, which means there's not much up there for Alka to continue farming on the circuit, so he's going to have to share a little bit in some of the lanes for a moment or two. And that slows down the farm overall.
Not to mention that Angry Day had so much pressure against Warchi early on, and that has all been eradicated at this point because Warchi now staying at level 4, clear level disparity between these two mid laners, but it's just the fact that Warchi is now free to aggress into the wave as opposed to before where he was stuck hiding on his tower line.
Yeah, and Angry Day's going to have a pretty hard time in this mid lane now because once Agni hits level 5 ahead of the Discordia, he's got no Aegis for another minute or so, and I'm pretty sure Warchi will start raining bombs, and even worse, Total might be able to get a gank off before Angry Day can, get his relic back online.
And I'm also just surprised in general that Angry Day even opted for this Aegis to begin with. I'd have to assume that maybe it was because he believes he can just immune all of the damage despite being stunned or caught out, and just hope that Discordia's escape is enough. But I just think that the Poppies do have a lot of control, especially because of the Ratatosker. So one through the Cosmos into a couple of bombs from Warchi, and that's Angry Day every single time served up on a silver platter.
I mean, the Aegis, though, if he gets hit by a bomb, he knows he's going to get follow-up damage, so he can avoid a lot of that after the stun wears off from the Agni. But if Worst Turtle times it nicely with Warchi, it could cause him some problems there for sure. He will eventually go beads, though, but at level 12, when he's definitely going to need it. Worst Turtle, though, losing out on that trade a little bit there, but he got the Harpy, I believe, so it worked out okay.
A little bit lucky there that Alka wasn't at level 5 just yet, because I believe Worst Turtle's dash actually ended up clipping Alka on the side there, cutting short, and Alka surprisingly enough, choosing not to give chase there.
Yeah, decided not to because he's still level 4. But the red buff invaded by Draco Marino and Chekio. They're both running away, but Draco has no level 5 just yet. Dashes down. Good bomb from Warchi to support. Better shell from Popular to make sure his team stays alive. But great work from the Pappies overall. In, get the red, and get out safely.
It felt like Exordium were still hesitating for a second there, not wanting to all be grouped up in the same spot for the bombs to come raining down on them. It does feel like they kind of dropped the ball, though, with that pick onto Draco Marino. I feel like once the Kumba route comes into play, that's where you just have to surround him with all 3 members, absorb the damage from Warchi, and just assume that he won't have enough to complete the kill.
I think maybe they're a little bit worried about where's Turtle being knocking around with that Ratatosk with his ultimate too, though, so I can understand it, but yeah, I agree it should have been a pick there. Now, though, Exordium trying to invade and cheekily steal away the purple. They succeed in doing so get a bit more farm for themselves. And actually, dual lane from Exordium is a little bit ahead overall that of the Pappies.
That's kind of to be expected, though, from Ken 6, especially since he's using the Jingwei's passive to its fullest intent. Probably going to start hitting those back Harpies off cooldown whenever he gets a chance to. And Julio actually avoiding that life of the party out of Cozy. Alka was hoping that there would be some form of connection, but instead it's going to be Wars Turtle's opportunity to maybe look for a drop down.
So 2 ultimates consumed there in an interesting way from both. Julio didn't want to join the party was the issue. Cozy's like, hey, do you want to come party with me? And Julio's like, no, I'm good. I don't want to come to you.
I got a curfew.
Parties. Yeah, I've got to be at home in bed under my tower. Alka gonna ult Worst Turtle. Worst Turtle has no ulti and dash now down. Angry Day giving chase. Only with the boots. 3 online for for Angry Day in the mid lane, but the mobility from Worst Turtle just too much with the speed buff.
And the fully finished Acorn. Worst Turtle.
He's got no boots though.
Didn't bother with any mace. True. He doesn't have any shoes, but he's got a nut.
Oh, yeah, he does. Good comeback, Taco. I like that one. Oracles are about to come up, are up on this left-hand side, and they're very important in the early game. It's extra experience that's contestable. But not only that, just having a bit of vision on that side of the map for free is very useful, especially around the Gold Fury area.
I'm a bit surprised that the Poppies aren't actually looking to pay more attention towards the Oracles early on. Julio actually going to pluck outside of his tower, probably hoping to collect Cozy there, but even if he does connect with the pluck into the tower, I don't think that the T1 would have been able to do enough damage to the Baron.
I agree. I don't think he would have killed Cozy there, but he may have been able to pressure him out because of it. Problem is, though, is that risk, well, the problem is it is a risk, and if the risk goes wrong, you end up back in base and the hard way.
I still just feel like no matter what, Cozy is just going to drop damage on top of him and kill him regardless. It just seemed a little bit absent-minded there from Julio to actually aggress, but now it's going to be up to the Poppies to try and keep in mind this Baron is roaming free and starting to take advantage of the jungle because Cozy's the one with the lead.
Good little slip there from Pappies in the mid lane as Warchi and Worst Turtle just avoid the gank attempt, but it has shown that Ken 6 is on his own over here. He's going to get hit by the Petrify in the back of his head, and that'll force an airstrike defensively. Julio and Cozy still going at it, and funny enough, we don't talk about solo kills in the solo lane when Sobek's there, but we did see him die, so...
Typically a really safe god, but not if you pluck forward at 20% health.
Yeah. The risk versus the reward, as always. So 7.5 minutes in, gold lead at the moment. It's ever so slightly in Pappy's favor. It's about 800. The experience, well, that's marginal at this stage. 500 experience across 5 members of the team isn't a lot, but here's a gank on the right-hand side.
And this is the moment that Cozy was waiting for, actually using that life of the party to try and make it back into the tower safely, but won't be enough. Julio going to collect him with that lurking in the waters, but the Exordium are able to respond in mid lane. Angry Day looked like he got a solid solo kill onto Warchi.
No, he had to spot Alka there as well, but those two combined, it's a good play from Alka to realize Worst Turtle's on one side, he's not going to get there, so look to put pressure and gank somewhere else. Warchi should have known that gank was coming from Worst Turtle on the right, so he knew his jungler wasn't around. A little bit risky, a little bit too far forward then from Warchi, and the Pappies trade out 1 for 1.
One big thing that I have noticed about the SML, though, is that players do tend to be a little bit more reckless in terms of they recognize that their jungler is ganking somewhere on the map, but then they still choose to play up in every other lane. And it does feel like a very risky situation to try and take up because you're not going to have that support that you normally would.
I think it's when it comes to comms and you go, hey, jungler says, I'm ganking right. The other lanes need to go, he's not near me. He's not going to be here to help. We need to just be very careful now. If he's ganking right, we may get rotated on. Just keep an eye on the wall coverage and the mini-map at those points. And it's an awkward thing because you don't really think about it, but you have to think that level at this level of play.
That was a smart gank, though, out of Worst Turtle. Caught Julio right back up to where he was at initially, and now this is all but a stalemate one more time in the solo lane. And also prevents Cozy, I think, from having as much freedom to look for invades on the Poppy's back heartbeat, so Worst Turtle going to regain his heartbeat timer, as well as not having to worry about anybody invading him on the blue and speed buff.
A lot of this is going to be down to when those solo laners join the fray in these team fights too, so keeping that even keel over on that right-hand side is going to be so important. Because the gold Furies may get contested before they turn up, but when we get to the major team fights, Baron and Sobek really do bring a lot on their own in terms of control, but Alka needs some help here.
Ooh, great stun there by Warchick, going to end up connecting, and Worst Turtle finds the last hit just in the nick of time. He was planning on chasing down Alka anyway with it through the Cosmos, so a bit of a loss for the Poppies in that regard, but doubt that they really mind it all that much, considering Worst Turtle with the kill already has a 2-level lead over Alka, and it's only getting further.
Werso just dashing away from the Yawn real quick. Left-hand Harpy's going to go down to the Poppies now. Thought they were grouping up for a Gold Fury for a second, but they're going to be a little bit more respectful than that, worried about all the ultimates being available. However, Popular has to dash away from the stun from Worst Turtle.
Angry Day even connected the route onto Warchi, and Warchi still dashed forward aggressively, just fully accepting of any sort of repercussion that might have come his way there.
Well, that's the thing with Discordia in the early game. I mean, through the early level, she really needs the itemization to get online to that mid-game is where she starts to shine. But in the early stages, Agony can be aggressive like that. It's not easy for Angry Day to all in and solo an Agony that dashes him after using the route in the first place.
I hope in the future, though, of this match as it progresses, that Angry Day, whenever he starts to see the Poppies alluding to aggressive moments like that, that he just uses that golden apple immediately.
Just straight in the face,
That would prevent Warchi from being able to dash in the first place off of the route, not to mention give some really solid damage and possibly even force the Poppies away from committing onto Alka.
Well, Alka at the moment stood on a ward, doesn't know about it at the moment, so he's just wasting his time, this solo laner, who is looking to try and put some pressure on Julio. All look to invade, but all the camps are currently down, so instead he turns towards the right-hand Harpies, which were already taken by Worst Turtle at that time, and ward wars happening on the right-hand side here.
Jacob Marino and Warchi both just hovering this mid lane area. Left mid Harpies not due to respond until another couple of seconds here. Warchi does want to contest, however, so Jacob Marino coming in for the backup. Seems as though those split half and half.
Yeah, it's kind of slowed down this game in a little bit. Both teams a little bit angsty about getting aggressive. Obviously, with Alka being a little bit behind in the jungle now, he's trying to slow things down. But Cozy knocked up in the sky, stunned straight afterwards, gets the life of the party off. Sirket took a long time on coming in for the big old play here. Ults on towards Julio, but it's not going to be enough for a kill.
Nowhere near enough damage, but Popular and Angry Day could maybe have something to say about that. Instead, they're going to get intercepted by Jacob Marino, and now Popular is going to end up falling to right around 70% of his health. Alka already being forced outside of this T1 tower. This could very well be the Poppy's first strike on the map.
Yeah, I really sort of think, though, Alka was a little bit late on turning up to help out Cozy there. He was around the area, knew what was going on, but I think he was trying to wait for the perfect window, and in doing so, it allowed Cozy to go down relatively quickly before Alka could even get in there and help turn this around.
Popular trying to clear out the creep waves before Julio and Jacob Marino can finish taking down this tower, and it does seem as though Cozy's going to make it back in time. Poppies, however, take down the Pyromancer.
Alka on the rotation at the same time, and as you said, Pyromancer down, tier 1 still alive. Alka, Popular, and Cozy on this right-hand side are not going to be able to catch Draco, Marino, and Julio, who get away for free.
Alka just couldn't afford to try and push any further into the Poppies there. If he ambushes in, then there's a high likelihood that Julio ends up just plucking him even further towards the tower line, and then Worst Turtle, who was covering that area as well, could rotate over, despite not having that through the Cosmos, can still deal plenty of damage on the Ratatosker.
Yeah, the Alka as well. Nice stun on Angry Day there, just keeping the pressure going. Dash down, and Draco Marino's here. No ultimate available for him. And Bucket is going to be like, all right, calm down. Let's go to sleep for a second. There's no more aggression allowed here. Angry Day will be fine. He'll head back to base. Now at level 12, so both the mid laners going to be able to get their second relics online.
Cozy has been getting punished pretty heavily, though, in this lane for being by himself,
Where's
realistically.
Gonna jump in. Great knock-up. Follow-up's good. Life of the party was just used at the last second, but not in time. Alka will punish them, though. 1 for 1. This could be 2 because the poison spread.
Worst Turtle realizing it, starting to try and back away here. Will get a slight heal off of this blue buff invade, so
nice.
that's a bit of a win for the Poppies despite the trade out. Worst Turtle over off the mark with the blink.
Blink for blink, though, as Alka gets away. Popular over here to make sure his jungler gets away from the danger, and he'll be okay for now. 6-3. The gold is starting to stretch, though, Taco, in Pappy's favor a little bit more so. We're approaching about 4,000 gold here, 4,500 experience.
It was a good pick by Alka. It was a response at last onto this dives from Cozy, but Julio dying doesn't really make too much of a difference when he's already ahead and claimed the life of Cozy. The problem is that Alka just needs to be expecting these ganks to be taking place. Now it's a little bit too late. Now Poppies, they're not going to bother with solo lane, or at least they shouldn't any longer. From this point forward, they need to just put all their attention towards the Gold Fury. They've already seized the Pyromancer. No real reason to be on solo side of the map anymore. And it's just a lot of pressure now onto Alka, because where is he meant to recover this experience?
Gold Fury has been pulled, but beats consumed by War Chi. He's working on zone work, and actually, for the cost of War Chi's beads, Poppies are going to get themselves a Gold Fury to continue growing that gold lead for themselves. Check out the Chekio, though, on this Medusa. He's gone for the Solia. How do you like this item? And Hunters.
Never really been a fan
Really?
of the Soul Eater on Hunters. No, I just...
Even ability-based ones, though?
Even ability-based ones, arguably the only one I would ever want to see this item on is Neath, possibly Uller, but
Chiron?
even that is a stretch.
What about Chiron? I think with
why
Chiron's
not Crusher?
internal... Yeah, you're right.
Why not Crusher? Why not Jotuns? Why not literally any other item out there in the world outside of Soul Eater? Because you're not going to get the same levels of sustain that you would from an Aussie or a Bloodforge or even the Devos, and I understand that you want power, so Soul Eater seems like it can provide some of that, but I feel like a lot of Hunter players get baited into picking up this item because of the cooldown reduction and the health stats, but it's really not as great as it seems. You're almost always, and by almost always, that's 99.99% of the time, better off taking any other standard Hunter item in that slot.
So you'd rather have Bloodforged or Assi there for the lifesteal?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Good to know.
Most definitely.
You're making me adjust my builds as well, because I've been messing around with it on Chiron for funsies, and you know, when you get cooldown reduction from Transcendence and Soul Eater, and you get a heal on your kit as well.
With the way that Season 5 has been, I never want to be the person that says, you can't do this, because
that's fair.
Just about anything can work, but just because something does work does not mean
it's
that
good.
It is ideal.
Yeah. Ideal's a better word, but I say good. It's just a simpler version of the two. 6-3, and Pappy's definitely in the power play situation, but the problem is now is that with how the early game's gone for the Pappy's, it's kind of awkward for them to find more now. Exordium already on the back foot, not playing aggressive at all, waiting for the Pappy's to initiate or overextend. And the Pappy's are just waiting for that moment. There's nothing really for them to do apart from 3-man farm mid.
Poppies have been very methodical in their engagements. They have not only been ganking Cozy because they wanted to, kill the Baron, although it's nice getting the kill, it's even better taking down the tower, opening up the map pressure, and allowing Julio to finally have some opportunities to begin rotating. Otherwise, he would probably still be confined to the solo lane just in a pretty much stalemate between himself and Cozy, because neither of those gods are very easy to punish. It took a lot of commitment from the Poppies to take it, but now they're looking to siege the rest of the map because of it.
I like the fact that Drake and Marino and Julio are the first two to go in. Alka goes in for the kiss, though. Does manage to find the ultimate onto War Chi, and the apple a day will prevent War Chi for the time being. He'll fall back. We're still now making the rotation. A lot of ultimates, all ultimates down on Exordium. Drake and Marino still has his. But that was a nice little pick from Exordium. They still hold their tower for now.
It looked like Worst Turtle was searching for Alka, but couldn't find him because of the way that the wall was just covering him up from that through the Cosmos. Bit of a luck spot there for Exordium, and the Poppies are going to wind up short. They were the ones that wanted to start the fight, and they couldn't even finish it.
Yeah, I think Alka's little blink in there worked out really well. Poppies just weren't ready for it or had the CC to stop him because of the Magi's Cloak, which I think is a really good item for him to choose when he's at a deficit and his team's behind. The CC chain's causing him a problem. Why not get a Magi's Cloak a little bit earlier?
Especially since there isn't a whole lot to even proc that Magi's from a distance outside of War Chi, but even then, it's not until Alka is already on top of your carry, committing with the last breath,
and ulted,
that you have a chance to really try and peel him away, but he's already accomplished his mission by then, and now, with the 4v5 advantage, Exordium not only forced the Poppies to reset, but They're also going to end up taking the Pyromancer.
Yeah, the Pyromancer was a nice little play from Exordium overall. That all came down to Alka, who's in a bit of trouble himself now, but Worst Turtle takes a fight. Used the Acorns for a stun, but the Magi's Cloak came up big. Julio's here with Worst Turtle, and Draco Marino coming around. Cozy could be in a lot of trouble now. He's going to do his best Juke Boots impression and get some sustain. Life of the party, maybe go 1-for-1 if he can find it. In the end, Worst Turtle will tuck his tail and run away, allowing the rest of his team to clean it up. Unfortunate for Cozy there, but fortunate for the Pappies.
And Kenstick's going to end up losing the Aegis. Still looking to aggress, though, into Chekio, but having already committed the agility, there's nothing more to close this gap between the two hunters.
I think he should have airstrike there.
He could have.
If he did airstrike there, like when the
He gets the
Petrify
kill.
came through, because Chekio can't cancel his ult when he's doing it, which also means he caught Aegis, and it probably would have been enough for the kill. But even then, he can still give the chase after the fact if it gets
He was
immune.
thinking of raw
I guess
damage
so.
at the time, and a bit of an oversight on Kenstick's end. I agree. That would have
Yeah.
most definitely led to a solo kill, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, it can be very easy to just overlook those things.
Better safe than sorry, right? Like, make sure you live. You don't do damage if you're dead. Well, Alka could be dead in a second as he gets CC chain with the Magi's Cloak and Beads being on cooldown. Nice little pick thanks to Warchi's stun that set up the whole rotation out of Pappies, who are now rotating all the way to this Gold Fury.
Poppy's already took the first Gold Fury of the match, and it looks like they're in position to take the second one. Kenstick's the only member from Exordium that could really give any sort of a challenge onto this objective, and even the Jingwei doesn't feel comfortable trying to strut right in there, for good reason. Probably would have ended up being a pick for free from the Poppies, and doubt it would have really delayed them sieging the Gold Fury.
Yeah, I think the one thing that Pappies may struggle against here is Exordium's defense isn't terrible at all. Angry Day can really cause a lot of problems with this Discordia and keep them on the back foot a lot more. And then you've still got to take into account there's a Convocana and a Baron. With the amount of CC and control they're going to bring this game too. Pappies have just got to play this well and play around their front line, Draco Marino and Julio, who need to make sure they are the ones with the aggro.
Great damage there onto Warchi. Popular going to
What?
make quick work of the Agni, and that's an immediate reset for the Poppies, but Kenstick's still trying to give chase.
I don't know how he died so quick there, Warchi. He just disappeared off the map. No
Angry
chance
Days
of relics.
combo. That's all it takes. Unruly Magic is just destroying the Poppies right now.
That's
and
mid-game, right?
They kind of just forgot about how much damage Angry Day can actually do on this Discordia.
At
They
this
haven't really
stage.
had to deal with him
Yeah.
too often.
That's the thing that people underestimate Discordia, because like early game is kind of like, oh, she's a nuisance, but she doesn't do anything. Mid game, people are like, oh wait, where did that damage just come from? Oh, I just had a 2-1 combo.
Well, now Julio, I believe, just had to expend that teleport relic just to make sure that Exordium weren't able to force down the left T1 tower, and Alka could be in a world of trouble. Excuse me, Worst Turtle. Ambush will connect. The auto attacks haven't hit just yet.
So he will survive for now. Meanwhile, right-hand side, Cozy does get a tier 1 tower. Exordium doing the right thing here, though. I do like it. When they get a pick, like they did on Warchi, on defense, they turn around and go, okay, we have a power play here. Can we find something? They get a tier 1 mid, a tier 1 right-hand side, which helps close some of that gold that they just lost around the Gold Fury.
Exordium have also felt a little bit more disciplined than the Poppies. The Poppies have kind of just been rushing at Exordium without really giving a second thought. Initially, they were being very careful and strategic about how they wanted to approach and when they wanted to approach Exordium, but for the past few minutes or so, it honestly just feels like Poppies have just been charging right in there and practically saying to Exordium, fight me if you want.
Well, they might have to fight him now because the Fire Giant has been pulled. Julio just missed his dash. Exordium knows something's going on here. Alka's on the way, so is Popular. Alka blinks in early. Gets a kiss over to Draco Marino to force out the ult. Worst Turtle in the sky. Fire Giant reset. In goes Worst Turtle, but he didn't find a target there. In the end, he played it safe. Pappies have to fall back as Exordium now a little bit more confident in pushing forward, knowing that a few members of Pappies were poked out.
But this is a 4v5 now, and Exordium have infinitely better secure and I think objective shred because of Ken6's Hunter build in comparison to Chekio. Chekio just doesn't have the damage. He went for the pen build.
And Beatstick, yeah. I'm interested by the Beatstick too. His attack speed's very low in that build so far, Taco. That's the one thing about that Medusa build that I'm like,
It hits
bit
hard.
awkward. Sure,
That's
but
about it.
when you swing once every 12 seconds, it better hard hit hard, you know? That's the only downside.
Medusa also doesn't really feel like a raw ability-based hunter. It's like her abilities complement her auto attacks.
Yeah.
She feels a little bit more like a Ho Yi to me, where she does have abilities that can deal decent amounts of damage, but her in-hands can also be fantastic to take use of. And I don't think that Chekio is getting the full use of his just yet, but now with the help of the Shinsai's, might be able to have a bit more of an impact against Exordium's defenses.
Well, the ward wars around the Fire Giant and Pyromancer have begun. You'll see Draco Marino gets a bit of an advantage with that nice little attack chain to bring down those wards. Pyromancer being body blocked by Julio, who plucks it there, interestingly enough. Don't know if that was really intentional now. Pyro's reset. Pappy's get it thanks to bombs from Warchi and the all-in dive, but that was a little bit risky from both teams on who was going to get that one.
Exordium, though, I think favored to have continued an engagement there. I think from the Fire Giant as well, Exordium kind of squandered the opportunity to chase down
Big
Poppies.
beats down an Angry Day, and he uses the dash. The Petrify follow-up will get the Aegis. The bombs rain down from Warchi, and Angry Day falls to the ground. Ken turns up and tries to put the pressure on, but he's forced back as well. Here's Cozy and Popular, who are out of position. The carries need help.
But it's Julio who ends up falling instead. Now Koziak's looking to help collect Draco Marino back into this T2 tower. Warchi, however, has been split off from the rest. Alka already spotted him out, but jumped right into that flame path, so just way too low to continue.
It's only 4k lead then for the Pappies. This is still a pretty close game between the two. That experience difference is only 500 experience. But when you look at where the experience has gone to in this game, notice the difference. Solo lane, Cozy, level 20. Julio, level 18. Whereas, Where's Turtle in the jungle, level 20. Alka, level 17. So the experience is even, but it's on different characters and different positions on the map.
Where's Turtle has not been able to really seem like he has an advantage, though, with this Ratatoskr. Despite being 3 levels up, I could hardly tell the difference between these two junglers. It almost feels like Alka has been a much more integral part of Exordium's team fights than Where's Turtle.
Love that call from Ken6 and Exordium. See a window, take it, close the gold gap. Pappies are leaving the door open slightly here and there, and Exordium are just opening it wide open, trying to claw their way back into this game today. Both these teams at the moment, even in the standings in the MIVE in the league, whoever wins this will obviously have a bit more of a leg up, closer chance of making it to the World Championships.
The Poppies are just really spread out right now, but with Ken6 having just back to base, Exordium really only interested in getting vision on the Fire Giant, and Julio was just biding his time until they all left. He had the counter ward available, but I love that placement of Alka's ward just outside the outer ring of that Fire Giant pit, because hardly anyone ever bothers to ward that deep, but it'll give perfect vision to Exordium of who's on that side of FG.
Alka's got a nice little ward right behind Chekio here. It's a great ward because when sentries are placed just near the Pyro like it is, it can't be spotted. It's one of the ones that I use as a support player myself because you can sneakily get in there and see exactly what's going on. And so Exordium know this Fire Giant is under threat. And Julio tanking it a long time here. He's taking some free damage. Got to be careful about that, as the pressure has been mounted by right inside Draco Marino going pretty deep, pushing up that wave. But Pappy's not confident enough to continue the Fire Giant.
But I want to see Exordium deeper. I want to see them attacking the Poppies when they're tanking up half their health on the Fire Giant objective. This can work also, but now they have to worry about keeping Warchi zoned away, Chekio zoned away. Julio actually going to blink forward, but there's no one there.
Exordium saw it coming just in time, I think, there, and at the same time, knowing the Blink's on cooldown, it's a small win for them. The dance continues now as Cozy's going to try and put some pressure on and keep the poke going. Get that hysteria stacking.
I like the Baron route into Discordia. However, through the Cosmos has been invested. Now the Poppies are looking to give chase, and all of Exordium are just trying to back off.
Oh, but if you all group up, Where's Turtle come down? He went towards Angry Day, who survived for now. Early shell from Popular to absorb some damage, but Alka forced out of the fight. Cozy pulls in Julio, who eats the apple, but he's still alive. Meanwhile, in the sky, Where's Turtle got knocked up by Popular, but it wasn't enough for a kill. Pappy is getting low, but so are Exordium.
Everybody is in so incredibly low right now,
That was a
but the
good fight.
Poppies are the ones who are trying to disengage first. Exordium now realizing that they have the advantage, trying to move forward here, but Where's Turtle's going to be the first one out. No, in fact, he cancels backing, looking for Alka.
Oh, Chekio goes down. Julio could be next to. He's going to dash away. Alka's still alive, getting chased down by Where's Turtle, but he's going to stay alive as well. Where's Turtle falls 2 people dead on Pappies. What a good fight for Exordium. End of the day, you said it best, Taco. They realize that they're in a power play because they've got sustain on their team, whereas Pappies, not so much.
Exordium are just going to back to play it safe, but I highly doubt that the Poppies are really going to want to seriously contest this Fire Giant. In fact, you see Warchi already heading over to the opposite side of the jungle, just looking to strip away whatever farm he can. with 2 members of the Poppies dead for another 30 seconds or so, Exordium still have more than enough time to go and siege this Fire Giant.
I think they should go start it up as well. If they knew where Warchi was right now, I'd be doing it. If Warchi would have based straight away, there's a chance that the 3 of them could have put enough pressure on, especially with Warchi having his beads and Aegis available, to try and stop this. But Draco and Julio are going to do their best to keep them busy. Cozy focusing on poking Draco means he's not damaging the Fire Giant. They're taking it very slow in that. Instead, they're going to roll in on Draco Marino. Instead, that's a beautiful pick from Exordium to slow it down. But it's bought time for Warchi and Chekio to start making this rotation. Julio now has his ultimate up too. And the threat is still there, and Exordium's still concerned about going all in.
Julio going to get aggressed on now, just prevents him from having any sort of chance of blinking forward. Popular will end up falling, however, but Chekio doesn't have the time to try and claim the Kumba. He's going to stay alive because of the passive, and Popular, the sacrifice was so worthwhile.
Definitely, and Exordium played that so well. They win the team fight, they go back to base instead of being crazy. A little bit too safe against the Poppies there, I'd say, but better safe than sorry. They end up getting the pick on Draco. Not only that, they all survive and all get the Fire Giant and are turning this game around. The Poppies were winning this for such a long period of time, but look at the experience. Obviously, it still matters a little bit at this stage, as not everybody's level 20 yet.
But still not quite as awful as it could have been had this lead occurred a little bit sooner. Exordium, though, have done a great job 180ing this game into their favor, and the Poppies kind of letting it happen with the way that they've been choosing to go in. It's just, they have felt like their lead is still being carried over without really realizing there wasn't much of a lead to begin with outside of the gold department. Experience-wise, everything was all but even, and Exordium, understanding that a little bit better than the Poppies, chose to just be patient.
Funny enough, this is harder for Exordium on offense, but I'll get to that as we watch Popular escape all the damage in the world. He's still alive at the back of that too. Nice use of the Epic Uppercut and Blink to get away. Still Kumba on the run. We're still charging in. Ken6 takes out Warchi while they were all chasing the Guardian. And as we're still jumping down, he couldn't find Ken6 straight away. It gave a window for Alka to get in there and get the ultimate off. But it's a 1-for-1 mid for Hunter.
Worsturl did everything that he needed to in that moment, and I am surprised that Ken6 let it happen. There's no reason for the Jing Wei to try and take up that trade with the Ratatoskr, because all Worsturl wants to do is kill the Jing Wei. That is the primary objective pusher for Exordium, and without Ken6, no one's going to want to push.
And let's talk about the Exordium comp here. The problem they've got is on offense. Who's going to engage? I'm looking at a Blink Kumbhakana or I'm looking at a Blink Circuit. On the towers and Phoenix lines, it's not the best thing in the world for engage.
It's up to Cozy.
Ult?
He has to be the one to get things started. He's got to be the initial beads burner, Aegis burner, because
I just feel like when that situation arises, right, the poke that you're going to see Exordium potentially put out on a Phoenix line is going to be okay. But Warchi can give just as much poke back with bombs. I think it's going to be a dive situation from Exordium that could hurt them, because their front line, their composition for diving the Phoenixes is awkward. They need to get the picks beforehand in the jungle if they can.
Well, the problem for Exordium is that they also only have about 115 seconds or so left on that Fire Giant until its effects wear off. That's hardly enough time to take those last standing T2s, and I don't even know if the Poppies are going to be willing to give up these structures. If I were them, I wouldn't, because they have bought themselves plenty of time by finding that pick onto Ken6.
And that's a big key there, is what they did in the jungle towards Popular. Like, catching him before the assault could really begin kind of set the tone of the game. And, well, that little team fight, it means this Fire Giant will be relatively wasted here. They've only got a tier 1 out of it so far.
But Popular getting poked there in the first place was just careless. That was just careless pathing from the Kumbhakarna. Even if you have Fire Giant, it doesn't matter. You don't need to be overly aggressive. Speaking of which, Warchi now getting some great bomb damage there off onto Angry Day.
And this is where the issue can arise a little bit for this composition. The range and Warchi can continue, but we're still up in the sky. Exordium spot it out. We're still off the mark with his landing. That's a 0, but A for effort. Popular though with the initiation. That's a great one to remove Warchi.
And Warchi, he's the best line of defense that the Poppies had going for them. Now they're all looking for the retreat, but Cozy X having no problems whatsoever, trying to pull Chekio back in. Golden Apple going to spread. Nearly takes down Chekio as well, but no one can find the last hit.
Life of the Party and the Golden Apple together is a nasty combination, because if you don't consume the Life of the Party as Cozy there, as the Baron, you can just keep pulling all the teammates together into a group, so the apple is always going to spread.
And now Exordium, the first real base breach has just taken place. They're going to take out the Poppies' middle Phoenix first and foremost. Everybody seems to really enjoy running it down mid.
I love the fact that Pappies were the ones that initiated, and Exodium went, okay, now the initiation's over, we'll go back in. And Popular timed that blink up to perfection. Warchi had no chance of even getting his Aegis off in time to try and stay alive.
Yeah, that can be a really hard one to avoid.
I love that.
Great
You know,
awareness.
when you're in the air and you're spamming the Aegis going, come on.
You know what that is? That's redemption for Popular, getting himself poked out unnecessarily
He still not died, though.
in the left-hand side.
According to Popular on the combo play so far, it's still working out for Exodium. After being at a deficit early, it's one of the hardest things in SMITE to play from behind and then still fight back into it. But here we stand now with Exodium comfortably in the lead this game.
Something else I want to note, though, that I really like that Popular has done is he picked up that Emperors. We were just talking about who's going to be the
towers,
frontlining member that deals with the structures, and I think that's probably one of the best responses that Exordium could have opted for in this position.
Because basically what it's doing is just slowing down how good the Phoenixes and towers are going to be, right? Just making sure they don't do as much, and it just makes sure that when you're on defense too, you're going to swing a little bit harder.
And now, not a single Poppy's member in sight as Exorium look to take down their second Fire Giant of the game. And that'll be a free one if I've ever seen it. And
Definitely a tilting team. It's a tilting game for Pappies so far, I'd say. If I was on Pappies right now, I would be a little bit frustrated with how this one went. They had this game in a very comfortable position once upon a time. They had pressure all over the map. Angry Dave wasn't be able to get involved. Warchi was off to a good start, but since then, Exordium have just slowly turned up the heat. If you look at the KDAs on Exordium, it's nothing exciting, but they've just done great teamwork things.
I think the Poppies really started losing their handle on this one, though, around those initial Fire Giant dances. It just felt like, I don't know if it was miscommunication or just the team hesitating as a whole, but some of the members looked as though they wanted to commit to Fire Giant, and then they did to about half or lower health of the Fire Giant, but they're taking so much damage in return that Exordium are just waiting and seeing what are the Poppies going to do, but just their presence alone prompted the Poppies to back off.
With that middle Phoenix already being down and Fire Giant round, Exordium's waste again. There'll be no defense at the tier 2 tower on the left-hand side from Poppies this time round. Instead, it's all about the Phoenix. Worst Hill going to push out the wave as best he can in the mid lane. Keep an eye on him for the counter initiation. If I'm Poppies, I sit back and wait for them to go aggressive because they are the ones that have to dive here.
I'm with you on that one. I think that the Poppies have, or should have, learned their lesson with that mid T2 siege.
Yeah.
They don't need to be the ones aggressing. They might as well let Exordium overstep their boundaries.
And Worst Hill should just be able to keep Alka in check in the mid lane, especially because he's got this Magi's Cloak too. So he doesn't have to be too scared about the all-in situation. But 5 men strong on the left. Exordium do go in.
And Popular already able to find Warchi on the backside, keeping Warchi completely zoned away from the fight. Now Angry Day is going to be aggressed on from that through the Cosmos out of Worst Turtle, but Worst Turtle already on the retreat.
Much better fight for Pappies. This one as the bombs come down from Warchi and the Petrified too. But the apple hits onto Julio. Great job from Pappies not to let that spread. But the health bars of Exordium, they still have the Fire Giant, and the regeneration is really helping them out.
Popular going to start taking up this tower first and foremost, but Jacob Marino has that Amaterasu ultimate, looking to try and find somebody with a dazzling offense, but no one to be caught.
Meanwhile, Worst Turtle goes in to slow them down, and in the end, he ends up back in the fountain. The Phoenix falls anyway. Middle one's about to respawn. Exordium have turned up the heat once more, and that was off Exordium's initiation, which I expected Pappies to do much better on the defense.
It's just Popular with these blink ults onto Warchi, man. It's just keeping him away from these fights so well, and Exordium even now creating so much space for themselves because the Poppies have to worry about left Phoenix, they have to worry about middle Phoenix, and all of these fire minions are just barreling into their base.
Second Phoenix is down, and out to the right-hand side they go. Warchi gets some good bomb stuns off, but it's not enough damage to bring anyone down. Popular overstays, though, and he's in sleepy time, but he just sets up the team baited to come and try and kill him. Popular still lives, and the Titan's going down.
There's no chance now for the Poppies. Julio going to end up finding Alka at the very least, but it's still not enough. Exordium going to end up taking this one home, and it looked like Poppies' game to win.
Credit where it's due to Exordium, though, for that fight. I think, honestly, at certain moments of that game wasn't all cut and dry at all. Pappies had a substantial lead in that game for a decent period of time, but then when it got to their team fights, Exordium showed up.
It kind of just all went to the wayside. As soon as the team fight started really getting right into the thick of things, the Poppies just felt like they were crumbling. It was just so much hesitation on their end, and they just seemed really scatterbrained on a lot of their engagements. Even their disengagements didn't look like they were fully convinced on that they should be retreating. At times it felt like Worst Turtle was still trying to look for flanks, and that would lead to him getting caught out of position. It just felt all over the place.
Composition-wise, beautiful from the Poppies. Early game, beautiful from the Poppies. Late game, well, we've got to keep working on that. But Exordium come up big there and climb in the standings. Who do you think is MVP for that game, and who would you turn to here?
I'd probably have to look at Popular or Angry Day, surprisingly enough. I mean, I know Popular had that one absent-minded moment around the T2 siege initially, but he's more than made up for it with the rest of his gameplay. I think he did a great job, and I think had it not been for those Blink epic uppercuts out of Popular, those base sieges would have looked entirely different.
I completely agree. I think Popular had a good game there, but it's you guys at home that get to make the decision on who was MVP for that game. So with that, that's all the games completed today so far for the minor league. But we're looking at well, if you think about how the standings were, it's not changed too much. It's just kind of started to create a bit of a divide between the top 3 and the bottom 3 now.
For sure, and now I'm sure Exordium probably ecstatic to know that they're moving on up in the standings. Meanwhile, the Poppies, they got to go back to the drawing board.
Well, the good news is if you're just tuning in for the minor league and you missed the action today, don't worry, because I've got Finch and Aggro standing by to break down all the games from today.
Thank you, Hindu. Thank you, Taco. Finch and Ryan here to close out the day. And what a day it was, really. I mean, if we went back through it, there were some sets in there that some went the way they were supposed to. Some kind of could be considered upsets as well. Definitely a lot of action.
Without a doubt. It was a really good day of European minor league. Milky Way goes from the bottom up towards the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Optimus Gang stays undefeated. This has been a good day for sure.
And it's a bit of a rough day if you're a Poppies fan, though, that I would say, right? They have the tough match up against Optimus Gang. Maybe that one you kind of expect, to take your lumps there. But this last setup against here Exordium is one where really the Poppies, you have to expect a roster this season to be able to kind of close that one out. They were strong, looking strong earlier on, but Exordium were able to come back.
Both the 2 longest games today were featuring the Poppies, particularly that first one against Optimus Gang was very long for them. But up against Exordium here, you heard Hindu say it. They played the early game pretty well. They played the mid game pretty well. But that late game, they just had a couple struggles and couldn't quite seem to put it together. And
that's what can be... And that's a struggle that you're allowed to have, I think, if you're one of the newer teams in the minor league. But I think that's the kind of thing that Poppies can't have as their problem anymore, right?
Sure.
This team is too seasoned. Closing out late game fights or being able to siege properly, that sort of thing, that's the kind of thing you should be able to do at this level. And unfortunately, Exordium was able to just come out on top of it.
Exordium's just late game team fights were just too good for the Poppies to handle. Popular in the support role for Exordium played so well in that game. And just the overall team effort from Exordium ended up being a little bit better. And you're right, that is a bit surprising, understanding that the Poppies, having been around for so long, still aren't able to get that teamwork quite there. But they have had changes.
They have, yes.
Warchi towards the mid lane, he played pretty well overall today. You got Checky in that ADC role now. Though that still needs some time, I think, to really mesh.
And Popular was selected as your MVP as well. Remember, we ran the votes throughout the day. We're going to be going through all those results for you, so we're absolutely going to cover who it was you all end up selecting. And Popular on the Kumbhakarna selected on match 4, and it was really his initiations that I felt like was kind of the big difference maker for this team, along with Angry Day right there, sort of the follow-up. They were the 1-2 punch where this Discord is able to follow up, and Popular is the one that kind of lined him up for him to finish it off, and they're able to come finish it out.
Angry Day did have a really, really good game on this Discordia. Those apples were consistently hitting priority targets and forcing them back or getting kills, spread a couple apples during that game. And Kumbhakarna is a great pairing with Discordia because it does set you up for that apple if it's from long range with Epic Uppercut, or just the Root or Mez sets you up for a great Strife, and Strife is such an incredibly disorienting and powerful ability that it ends up being a team fight winner most of the time.
It did end up being a little bit tough for Exordium there on the back end of that one, but if we can go all the way back towards, I guess, sort of the start of the day and trying to remind you about that Insignum up against Sacred speed buff match that kind of started it. I think this one ends up going the way that we expect, right? Insignum do come out on top in that one, and that's not too much surprised, but what really was surprising is how quickly that got away from them. Sacred speed buff looked good early, but like one Gold Fury fight was the domino, then Fire Giant, then some more fights on the back end.
Yeah, it was the team fights again from Insignum that end up setting them apart, and Zero in particular I thought played very, very well. He really disrupted these team fights so beautifully. The Big SB, Stevie BC, Zashu had a really tough time on this Bologna trying to match what Zero was bringing to the team.
Yeah, hard to believe, man, that Zero keeps having this big impact, but he is the one selected as the MVP, at least from you all's voting on that one back towards game one, and he looks pretty strong here up against the big SB. And Sobek is a guy that continues to have big impacts in these sets when he's allowed to comfortably farm throughout that early game. No one's better at him in a team fight, it feels like, really, than this Sobek pick, and Zero just putting it on display.
It's so dominant in the late game because it does so much damage. I mean, if you hit Pluck, Tail Whip, and Sickening Strike, that's over 700 base damage on one target. And if you hit the Pluck, then you can't miss the other abilities. They're landing. And so that's before you add in the, 800 base damage of Lurking in the Waters, plus scaling. He's got great CC, he stays alive, and his damage is really, really relevant as well.
And for Sacred Speed Buff, maybe you don't feel too bad about it because they start that game off at least on a good foot. They get a couple kills there, but they got to have a little bit more awareness. And Signum were able to just go strip away the Gold Fury when no one was even around. It wasn't like they won a fight and then took it. And then it's on the back of that they're able to win another team fight. They're able to roll right over the Fire Giant. And then Sacred Speed Buff couldn't put on the brakes. Once Signum sort of got on the track, they kept it rolling without any trouble.
And that's where that team fight prowess in the solo lane is going to really help you. And picking up a god like Sobek that's so dominant in that sort of situation, when you put yourself in that situation, Insignum is very good at drafting a particular type of team composition and then playing to its strengths, and they did that very well in this game.
We went from one really strong team in Insignum to another one with Optimus Gang, who was the follow-up, at least for set 2, if we can get y'all back there. As Optimus Gang up against the Poppies in the longest set of the day, I recall correctly. It was not easy for Optimus Gang to close that one out, and I feel like that was a lot on Warchi on that Agni, right? He was really the big stalling factor.
He really was, man. His bombs over the wall was consistent 2-3-man bomb stuns, poking out Caspanify and keeping Optimus Gang kind of at bay. Ultimately, Johnny playing the Ao Kuang is you get to 40-plus minutes, you got to play against Ao Kuang. Like there's not a whole lot you can do against it. It just brings too much.
And this is such a great example of why this pick in particular is so strong on him, because I don't believe we saw an execute from him until the end of the game. It was like the very final Titan push, and he is the one that takes down the Titan. This is Johnny on this pick being able to find value on it without what I think is the core mechanic of this god. He's just that strong on it and able to kind of solo down the Titan towards the end, make sure that Optimus Gang are able to close that game out without it going another 10 minutes on the back end.
Johnny really did do a pretty good job this game, but I do think that Optimus Gang need to be a little bit better about their sieging. It was definitely a problem for them. They had an exorbitant lead with a great late game team composition, and it still took them a long time to get the job done.
They just couldn't find Warchi on the back end, and in that team fight, because Johnny did kind of vanish, I feel like, a little bit between when they built up their lead and then when the sieging phase began, because it was a lot harder for the Ao Kuang to make their way in. It was really a Caspanify who I think kind of took the reins in between on that Jingwei and was able to sort of keep finding consistent damage for them in their team fights and keep them going. So yes, it was a team effort from Optimus Gang, but often Johnny just kind of stands a little bit taller.
And that's a great side, actually, for Optimus Gang. Yeah, you would have rather seen them close out the game a little bit sooner if you're an Optimus Gang fan, but having someone besides Johnny really take those reins and be a late-game powerhouse, and I agree with you that Caspanify definitely filled that role on that Jingwei. Ferrocrick as well did some decent work in the mid-game. Didn't do as much towards the late game, but then Johnny had kind of stepped it back up again. I think Optimus Gang, as they continue to get better, we'll see better and better performances from these usual role players to try and support. And that's how you go from a pretty good team to a very good one.
Well, the only match we haven't covered just yet is that third match, which was also you and I took a look at, Milky Way up against Exordium. And Exordium had a bit of a rough time in this set. This was one where Milky Way, I think, it's one thing that they came out with 2 wins, but they looked dominant, I feel like, in this win. They kind of ran it from start to front. And I would say this was Milky Way kind of coming a bit into their own. They executed their draft, the draft they picked, and executed very well in the actual game.
I love the way that they drafted. I think that the early picks, I mean, they let Freya go and didn't take it for themselves, but for whatever reason, Exordium didn't seem to want it either. I think that the overall team composition of you pick Athena, you leave your last pick open, and then you slam the Fafnir, which fits so well with Sol Ram, and then you give Sixer that Athena. He played so well on that Athena out of the solo lane, was setting up consistently for the team all game long.
And I feel like it was such a great passing of the baton, as I think how I described it in the moment, but it was like initially the Marcus forming the jungler on the Raven, right, that was getting some early pressure. They did a good job in mid lane getting that pick onto Alka, but then it became all about Sixer throughout the rest of that early game into the mid game. His taunt, his rotations were just a little bit too strong. He was able to outpace Exordium, and then once Milky Way got that lead, it was one more case of them never really letting up off the gas.
The teamwork was great from Milky Way. Their composition was great. They played to the objectives well. They were consistently pushing towers early in the game, which is what you want to do with this type of team composition. And
right.
There was just no way for Exordium to keep up off the consistent stream of Athena taunts. I mean, every single one of these highlights is just Sixer starting an engagement with an Athena taunt.
And this is a play we talked about there where I don't think they get the tier 2 on the back of this because they spend so much time getting those Guardians. But it's kind of where I wasn't clear from Exordium what the idea was, right? They were kind of put in a tough spot, yes. But, I mean, give up that tier 2 tower or give up all your lives. They picked to give up all your lives in that situation.
And eventually that tier 2 tower is going to fall anyways.
Right.
I mean, that's going to stand there, whereas if you were alive, you can spread the map a little bit, farm out. Exordium was able to bounce back nicely against the Poppies towards the end of the day, but clearly their early game needs a little bit of work because even in that game, remember, we just talked about it, the Poppies had a pretty good start, looked good in the early to mid game. So Exordium, I think, needs to work on getting a lead and trying to stay close enough in that mid game where against certain team compositions like what they faced up against there for Milky Way, there's just no way they're able to keep up in that sort of pace and hold out towards the late game like they were able to do against the Poppies.
Yeah, things got a little bit away from them. So Exordium got some work to do. Milky Way getting to impress, I think, a little bit today. Plus, I got to say Shoxy Foxy, which I didn't know I was going to enjoy so much today.
Not
that was
too bad.
A nice win for me, at least for me, I would say. But let's go ahead and take a look back at just the schedule so you can see all those matches one more time out in front of you. Remember, one did happen off broadcaster today. That was Milky Way finding their other win up against Sacred Speed Buff to put them up at 2 and 3, kind of breaking a little bit away from the rest of that middle of the pack. But some big sets, and Sigma and Optimus Gang continuing to impress, and Milky Way showing their presence. Now we got to start looking towards North America for tomorrow for the SML as well.
I'm just waiting for the Insignum Optimus Gang rematch. It's two trains
That's a big set,
heading at one another, hurtling across the landscape from one coast to the other, and they're going to meet in the middle sooner rather than later.
And I got to think Insignum are not particularly happy either, man. This team has been so dominant in Europe all year long, and now because of that set, they kind of have to look back at it and go, man, everybody's thinking Optimus Gang are better than us this whole time, right? No way, man. We want that title back. So Insignum and Optimus Gang is going to be one epic showdown once they do end up matching up again. But you can see it in Milky Way now right there with Exordium 3rd and 4th, creating a little space between Poppies and Sacred Speed Buff, who are 5th and 6th.
Exordium and Milky Way now tied at that 3rd mark, and 3rd place is where you want to be. Remember, top 3 go up against one another in that best of 3 round robin, but Milky Way did just get the head-to-head win against Exordium in pretty convincing fashion, so Exordium definitely wants to try and take advantage up against teams like Sacred Speed Buff later on, who have struggled a little bit more, and get those victories, try and stay ahead.
And you talked about it a little bit. For those 3rd place teams, it's instrumental that they get every win against everyone that's not Optimus Gang and Insignum they can. And then if you can, beat one of them too. You got to make sure you're creating that cleared space if you want that 3rd place spot.
It's tough, man. Top 3, it's the top half of the league, but when the top 2 of the league feels so much further ahead than everybody else, it makes even getting that top 3 part pretty difficult.
It really does kind of feel like you're just chasing such a one little tight, narrow spot to try and make their way in. But as difficult as it is for these minor league players, again, it couldn't be simpler for you all folks at home. Just go to highresexpo.com if you want to make your way to HRX. Pick up some tickets there. Pick up some tickets for your friends. Get everyone in there to go. Not just SMITE that's going to be happening. I mean, DreamHack is a huge event, so you can enjoy HRX, enjoy everything that's there, enjoy the city, and just have a good time.
Plus, don't forget, if you go to HRX and DreamHack Atlanta, Finch is going to give you, what was it again, Finch?
A crisp handshake.
Crisp handshake.
It'll be the crispest. It'll be a Ron Swanson level firm handshake.
Wow. I don't know if that might be worth more than the ticket itself.
That's a big deal. One more thing that's absolutely worth that ticket, though, is going to be this after party. I mean, last year it was great to get to meet all the streamers, all the personalities, your players, your coaches. We're all there as well. Some of the people from the community that you just really like. Everyone's having a good time relaxing after the big event that just went down, and it really is just a fun time with a bunch of people that all love the same stuff you do.
This is, if you're going to the after party, or excuse me, if you're going to DreamHack Atlanta, you should be going to the after party. If you don't, you're messing up.
Yes.
Don't mess up. Go to the after party.
There's very few rules in SMITE where I think you're just doing it just straight up wrong, because there's so many ways to do it. It's such a flexible game. If you go to HRX and don't go to the after party, you really are just doing it wrong. Yeah.
Can I get a quick preview of this crisp handshake?
Yeah, let's go. That was nice and firm, wasn't it?
Chat.
Yeah.
highresexpo.com. Buy the tickets. That was excellent.
Yeah, absolutely was.
That was good work.
My man setting me up, gassing me a little bit, but you want to make sure that you're here. And if you want to make sure you have plenty more to enjoy today, the SPL's still coming. We start a little bit later on those minor league days, and it's going to be 2 sets, but you want to make sure that you're there for it. Check right back here with us for that SPL. But really, that's going to do it here for the minor league. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later on today.
Beach it.